Chapter 3044. The surrounding people entered the center of the mysterious body one after another. She even saw a very familiar figure. For example, Qian Xiu Xiu. For example, Yi Bei Feng. This kind of encounter wasn't bad for her. Those people, she could catch them all in one fell swoop today. Yi Bei Feng sat down in the front seat, but his eyes still looked in her direction from time to time. He wanted to go forward, but he thought of how he affectionately invited Luo Qingchun to a candlelight dinner that day, but she coldly rejected him. His heart had always been sullen. It was as if there was a hurdle that he couldn't cross no matter what. It wasn't even 2 o'clock yet, but the surrounding reporters' voices had already entered their ears. This is really big news. I more or less got some gossip. I heard that director, Su, will have a hard time turning things around. Could it be that Star Maker is finally going to fall? I really want to see Su Qinzhou's frivolous and arrogant appearance. I want to see what he looks like when he falls. Don't say that. What if he turns things around? Turn things around? How is that possible? If my information is correct, it might really be hard for him to turn things around this time. Naturally, Su Qinzhou could hear all of the discussions going on around him. They also knew that Su Qinzhou was sitting behind them, but they didn't care at all. After all, Eisen, that big mouth, had already sentenced Su Qinzhou to death. Luo Qingchun looked to the side and saw Su Qinzhou's calm face. She gently held his arm and said, "Let's go watch a movie after the conference, okay?" "Okay." Su Qinzhou held her hand and clasped her 10 fingers in his palm. "What do we eat after watching?" "I want to eat Japanese food." Luo Qingchun pursed her lips and said, "I want to eat thick-cut salmon." TSK, TSK, TSK. Su Qinzhou looked at her with a smile and said, "You really know how to enjoy life." Luo Qingchun revealed a faint smile to him. What entered her eyes were those gentle and loving eyes that were especially warm. Just as they were chatting about their daily lives, the stage was already filled with people. Sitting in the middle were Eisen and Yi Dong, who were the leaders of this conference. Sitting next to him were some of the entertainment industry's media executives. They were also very prestigious people in the industry. The witness this time was like cutting off one's means of retreat and sinking one's boats. It was either death or destruction. "Ahem, welcome to this press conference," Eisen said into the microphone. "The reason for this press conference is to let everyone see some of the dark faces of the entertainment industry. They look bright and beautiful on the surface, but they are doing dirty and disgusting things behind the scenes." The next second, one of the bold reporters asked, "May I ask if the person you're talking about is the chairman of Star Maker?" "Don't worry. Everyone will know once they finish watching the video." Eisen's eyes emitted a cold light as he said, "What happened in the parking lot that day? The big screen will explain everything to you." Yidong nodded and took out a videotape from his briefcase. Luo Qingchun didn't even need to think to know that what was recorded in the videotape was exactly the same as what Yi Beifeng showed her that day. They used this kind of despicable method to leave behind the so-called video evidence. They were really shameless. Gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. There were already many reporters taking out their cameras. Chapter 3045. Everything around her instantly froze. The camera's flash shone on her eyes, dazzling and deep. She walked step by step towards the projector and exchanged the tape in the staff's hands. Then she raised her eyes, and her gaze fell on Yidong. He seemed to be looking at her as well. That pair of bright eyes carried a sharp light. It was as if he could still see her in this frozen space. However, for Luo Qingchun, no matter what kind of monster the other party was, she really wasn't afraid of anyone. After exchanging the videotapes, Luo Qingchun slowly returned to her seat. Now that her space-time freezability was very high, unless the distance was very far, there wouldn't be much of a problem. The moment she sat in her seat, she slowly raised her eyes, and everything around her returned to normal. Yidong's face seemed a bit pale at this moment. Beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. He didn't know why he was so flustered, but he had an inexplicable feeling of wanting to shout for it to stop. "Wait!" But before he could say anything, the videotape had already entered the projector. The screen showed black, and in the next second, a clear image appeared. In a parking lot, a group of people surrounded a girl in pink clothes and were touching her. Su Chenzhou immediately dared to go over and pushed everyone away. What he didn't know was that although the group of people left, the girl suddenly began to tear her clothes like crazy. She also tightly held Su Chenzhou's wrist and deliberately touched her body. At the same time, her mouth kept shouting for help. A few seconds later, the screen showed Eisen bringing a group of people to the scene. The girl immediately pretended to be a victim, and her tears couldn't stop falling. After a few seconds, Su Chenzhou fainted. The whole video played for less than 3 minutes, and no one at the press conference said anything. Everyone held their breaths and stared. They didn't even dare to breathe. Luo Qingshun only occasionally heard 1 or 2 sighs. Everywhere she looked, everyone's eyes were filled with fear. The moment the lights were turned on again, Luo Qingshun slowly got up, clapped her hands a few times, and said, "Everyone should understand. This is the so-called high-level badger game." Eisen looked at Luo Qingshun in horror. His lips were trembling. He wanted to say something, but it was as if he had been slapped in the face by the video. He couldn't even say a single word. How could this be? How could it be this video? He clearly wanted to play the latter half of the video. Why was the first half included in the video? Who was it? Who was interfering with their business? In the next second, Yi Dong turned around and immediately pushed the blame to Eisen. "Eisen, how could you do such a thing? To think that I trusted you so much. Aren't you betraying me first?" Yi Dong's tone was very dignified. His voice didn't tremble at all. No matter how flustered he was, he still looked very calm on the surface. You. Eisen, on the other hand, couldn't take it anymore. His mental endurance was completely inferior to Yi Dong's. At this moment, in the face of ironclad evidence, he didn't even have the strength to refute. Cough, cough. In the next second, Luo Qingshun cleared her throat and said, "Then, Chairman Yi Dong doesn't know anything about this matter?" Chapter 3046. Ha! Luo Qingshun laughed pretentiously and said, "So, Chairman Yi Dong is a very upright person. Although I have a competitive relationship with Chairman Su, we have always minded our own business." Yi Dong pushed his glasses up and said, "I never do things like adding insult to injury." When he said this, he didn't look at Luo Qingshun's eyes. Instead, he looked to the side, because he didn't know why. As long as he looked into her eyes, there would be a special feeling of panic in his heart. Okay. Luo Qingshun pursed her lips and said, "If today is just to prove young Master Su's innocence, it will be a bit boring." The next second, all the reporters' cameras immediately turned to her. The overwhelming number of questions came into her ears. "Miss Luo, do you mean that you also have something to disclose today? Miss Luo, is there anything else besides this high-level badger game? Miss Luo, please tell us." The next second, Luo Qingshun's lips curved into a very faint smile and said, "Cece, bring it up." "Okay." In an instant, Yin Cece, dressed in casual clothes, stood up from the chair in the corner with a proud look on her face. She took out a stack of A4 papers from her bag and walked to the first row. When Luo Qingshun called her to help, she felt very happy. Many people always said that she was stupid, but Luo Qingshun didn't despise her. In this case, she wanted to show off and be recognized. I think that some things don't need to be said. Maybe it's closer to the truth. Luo Qingshun pursed her lips with a faint smile. Standing under the spotlight, she looked so dazzling. Yi Beifeng looked at her with an infatuated look. Qian Xiuxiu was so angry that she rolled her eyes and fainted. Luo Qingshun looked at Wang beside her with an indifferent look. "Remember to send our Shi home safely later." Where are you going, madam?" "Of course it's to watch a movie and eat with your young master. This place. You don't care about this place anymore." "Here." Luo Qingshun narrowed her cold eyes and chuckled. "Does this place have anything to do with us?" In the next second, Su Chenzhou, who was standing beside her, suddenly hugged her tightly. For a long time, he didn't say anything. She only knew that when he hugged her, he was trembling slightly, and there was a touch of heat between his breaths. Luo Qingshun probably knew that it was because his heart was full of emotions and he had nowhere to vent them, so he could express them when he hugged her. "No one will hurt you anymore. Luo Qingshan was like a little sister as she gently rubbed Su Qinzhou's head and said, "In the future, you can always believe in love." In the next second, Su Qinzhou gently kissed her forehead and said, "I don't believe in love. I believe in you." When all lives were redeemed, when all emotions were vented, it was already not easy to meet in the vast sea of people. To know and love each other was even more difficult, and he seemed to have met all of them. Many years later, Luo Qingshan asked Su Qinzhou if he still didn't love her very much when they got married. After all, feelings for her didn't lie. Later, Su Qinzhou told her that it wasn't that he didn't love her, but that he didn't dare to open his heart to love her. He was afraid of being hurt. He was afraid that she wouldn't love him, but later, when he fell deeply in love with her, he didn't care about anything else. Even if he was hurt, he still wanted to love her. Chapter 3047. Early the next morning, Yi Dong was arrested by the police on charges of corruption, money laundering, and other charges. Before he entered the detention center, he strongly requested to see someone, and that person was Luo Qingshan. Unfortunately, Luo Qingshan was busy with the audition for the female lead of Parting Palace and didn't have time to go to the detention center to see Yi Dong. After the press conference, Luo Qingshan's popularity soared like a ladder, not because of anything, but because of her words at the press conference. They were simple but powerful, which made the hearts of young girls overflow. When Star Creation Agency announced the female lead of Parting Palace, Weibo was once again attacked. This time, it seemed that everyone was on Luo Qingshan's side. This was because Su Qinzhou had immediately attacked some of the people who had commented negatively on Parting Long Palace after the official announcement. That person's comment was like this: "I'm the cutest. Why did Origami Guru let a completely unknown person act in Parting Palace? Are you joking? Are you using connections?" Master Su's Weibo post was like this: "Su Qinzhou, I opened the company, I bought the script, I invested in the film and TV series. So what if I choose my wife as the female lead? So what if I'm unreasonable? Yin Kai, oh my God, all kind of handsome, all kinds of overbearing CEO falling in love with me. Tortoise is a good boy, oh my God, my young girl's heart. Buddhists, I just want to say that official sugar is the most fatal." An hour later, the author of Parting Palace, Origami Guru, also posted on Weibo, expressing his support for Luo Qingshan. Although it was done in a rather obscure way, it made people feel very comfortable looking at it. Origami Guru, I just think that the name Luo Qingshan is very nice. What's wrong with her being the female lead? Asterisk caret, caret asterisk, Mo, Ran. Origami Guru is a little cutie. Yujiru, great. Take me flying, great. Yi Zijiang. Selling leaves in the front row, do you need it? Lily, we are as cute. Asterisk caret, caret asterisk. Luo Qingshan spent 3 months shooting Parting Palace. The trailer of this drama has become popular all over the country. When it was released the following year, the first episode broke all the historical period drama ratings. Many people wanted to invite her to be the female lead of the next drama, but she rejected them all seriously. She said, "This is the only movie I plan to make in my entire life. It's not for myself, but for the soul of another time and space." No one knew who she was talking about, but in the end, she did win the title of Best Actress with Parting Palace. As for Yi Beifeng, it was said that he drank heavily in the following year and had several girlfriends, but he always hit them when he was drunk. Appearing on the news one after another made him lose even the most basic modeling job. He was afraid that he could no longer stay in this industry. As for Qian Xiuxiu, Luo Qingshan never saw her again. It was as if she had disappeared from the face of the earth. Later, she accidentally heard from Wang that Su Qinzhou had killed her. As for how he had killed her, Luo Qingshan didn't know in the end. Eisen went to prison. Yi Dong also went to prison, but the former was only imprisoned for a year, while the latter was imprisoned for life. She met many people and experienced many things in her life. Her favorite scene was the evening when her family sat in the courtyard, eating barbecue, enjoying the sunset, and enjoying the love of family. For the rest of her life, this was good. Chapter 3048. When I met you, God told me that I couldn't escape. Su Qinzhou, my father, made me believe in love, but also made me not believe in love. He once had such a passionate love affair with my mother, but in the end, not long after my mother's death, he married a young and beautiful woman. And this woman was even younger than me. How ironic and laughable was this? The first time I saw Yi Duo Yun, my attitude towards her was abnormally cold. She also seemed to be afraid of me, standing behind Su Yuan with her eyes wide open. I snorted coldly and left the house without looking back. From then on, I never came back. Not only that, my personality became more and more strange. I didn't like anyone, and I didn't need anyone to like me. When I saw those women who flattered and acted against me, I felt that they were especially fake. Because of my hatred for my father, because of my hatred for those hypocritical people, I felt that I should auction the heart of the sea that my father gave to my mother. This kind of meaningless thing, it was better to exchange it for money and give it to those who needed help. But I never thought that I would actually meet her on a cruise ship. That was definitely the nightmare of my life, the dream of my life. I had never experienced that feeling of being cut off at night. I only knew that when I woke up, there was a special throbbing feeling in my heart, and within the throbbing, there was a bit of anger. Of course, when I saw that note, my anger doubled. I ordered Wang Wang to immediately find her, but I seemed to have a deeper fate with her. At the masked ball, I could immediately feel a familiar aura from her body, and I didn't hesitate to pull her to my side. She was stunned at first, but I clearly felt that the stunned expression lasted for a second, and then it became familiar. She quickly knew who I was and danced with me. I suddenly understood the complicated relationship between them, and I knew that she liked someone. That person, how to say it. In any case, I didn't think that he looked that good, and he looked like a small star with no future. At that moment, I didn't know where that feeling came from, but it slowly rose in my heart. It was the first time in my life that I felt this way, but I had to be calm so that she couldn't see that I was nervous because of her. Those people's words were particularly unpleasant, as if they were all bullying her. They even thought that I, who was dancing with her, was a security guard. I have to say, when I stood on the stage and said that I was Su Qinzhou, the feeling was quite comfortable. I didn't expect that there would be a follow-up to the auction. I thought that I wouldn't give anything to a woman, let alone the heart of the ocean, which symbolized love. But I did. I did it without hesitation. I even asked her to stand on the stage and personally take out the heart of the ocean so that she could receive the envy, jealousy, and hatred from those people. Actually, at that time, I should have understood that I liked her far more than I knew. Perhaps it was because of that absurd night, or perhaps it was because of her faint smile. I may not admit it on the surface, but that doesn't mean I don't admit it in my heart. Compared to this, I was more interested in knowing what he thought of me. For example, did she still like Yi Beifeng? Chapter 3049. The first time I did something like peeping, I didn't feel good. But because it was her, I felt it was worth it. Because it was a bit far, I didn't hear their conversation at first. I only knew that she didn't seem to have any appetite and kept acting like she wanted to throw up. I immediately became nervous. It couldn't be that I had something with her on the cruise and she was pregnant, right? I didn't know anything about this. I asked Wang Wang next to me, and he told me that it was possible. The next second, the word that came to my mind was responsibility. After a while, the people around us gradually decreased, and I could clearly hear their conversation. This Yi Beifeng couldn't catch up with her and instead made up a story about me not liking her. Come on, I know better than anyone else whether I like her or not, okay? I didn't say anything and walked up to him. I had already made a decision. Whether she was pregnant or not, I should be responsible for her. Therefore, I decided to marry her. After making this decision, everything seemed to go smoothly. We weren't playing hard to get. We weren't suspicious of each other. It was as if, because of a red book, everything became better. I gave her the key to my villa. She was very sensible and didn't go. Because before many things were taken care of, her identity couldn't be announced. But this didn't mean that they could bully her. My wife wouldn't let anyone bully her. But even if she took a script that wasn't a popular drama, she still acted out the drama very well. It was as if she was born to be an actress. Her entire body emitted a dazzling light from head to toe. Even I felt that she was too dazzling. So dazzling that I wanted to lock her by my side at all costs. I was afraid that she would be taken away by others. Those people wanted to spread rumors about us living together to harm her. I simply pushed the boat with the current and announced that we were married. I originally wanted to let the entire world know that she is my Su Chinjo's wife and that no one could covet her. And she also did her best to protect me and not let me get hurt. Husband and wife were originally one. I used to think that she was still a baby and that it was fine as long as I protected her. But later I understood how happy it was to be protected by her. It was a kind of indescribable feeling that spread from the depths of my heart through my veins. Of course, the thing I was most grateful to her for was the answer to love that had always been in my heart. Actually, from time to time, I could feel that Yi Duiyun's actions were very similar to the person I respected the most. Perhaps it was just a small gesture of pulling her hair behind her ears, or perhaps it was just the way she tied the bow on her shoes. In short, I was aware of her good intentions and of my father's. But we never mentioned this to Yi Duoyun. Even after many years, she still asked my wife curiously how she made Su Yuan change into a different person in an hour. At that time, the three of us just looked at each other and smiled. No matter if it was her previous life or this life, this was her life. As long as she receives our support and affirmation, she doesn't need to know these things. She just needs to live out her life without any worries. Perhaps he had worried too much in his previous life. In this life, he would just be a child. Chapter 3050. The story later. After filming Parting Palace, Luo Qingchen was faced with all kinds of awards and invitations for new shows. She still wanted to win awards, but she refused all invitations for new shows. Yi Dong's appeal in the Supreme People's Court was rejected and the original sentence was upheld. Original sentence: life imprisonment. Although he still clenched his teeth and refused to admit a word, he began to compromise in his heart. It was not because he wanted to compromise, but because he had no way not to compromise. Yi Beifeng looked for her many times. In addition to asking about her well-being, he also said that Yi Dong wanted to see her again. There was a knot in his heart that couldn't be untied for a long time. Luo Qingchen probably knew what he wanted to know. There was someone who wanted to die in peace. Prison. Luo Qingchen walked into the innermost room. Although Yi Dong was wearing a prisoner's clothes, he didn't look sloppy at all. Even his beard was shaved very clean. It's been more than a year. You finally appeared. Yi Dong slowly looked up at her and said, "Do you have a cigarette?" Luo Qingchen looked at the detention center staff next to her and nodded. The man put a pack of cigarettes on the table. "It seems I'm locked up, but he's still worried." Yes. Su Chinzhou was indeed worried. So even the staff members that came with her were all from the Su family. "There's nothing to worry about," Luo Qingchen said lightly. "You can go out first. But young mistress, it's okay." Luo Qingchen watched his figure disappear behind the corner and looked at Yi Dong. "If you have something to say it quickly. I don't want to hurt myself to communicate with you." Yi Dong took a deep breath and said, "The night before the press conference, did you? Yes." Luo Qingchen almost immediately interrupted his trembling voice. "I got the videotape and the shameful contract in your villa." How is that possible? How is it impossible?" Luo Qingchen's lips curled into a smile. "My talent for magic isn't normal. So the videotape at the press conference is also yours. It's me." Luo Qingchen replied indifferently, "It's all me." "How did you do it?" After a long time, he finally asked the question that he couldn't explain in his heart. In the next second, Luo Qingchen raised her hand, indicating for Yi Dong to come forward. Little did she know that when Yi Dong heard her answer, he began to laugh maniacally. Luo Qingchen's eyes narrowed and a faint smile appeared on her lips. She turned around and left the prison. It was said that Yi Dong committed suicide the next day. Su Chinzhou asked her what Yi Dong had said. Luo Qingchen only shrugged her shoulders and said, "He was just trying to provoke him." Actually, the 4 words she said were, "Me. Yes. Yes." The following is a summary of the data for this mission. Please read it carefully. Name: Luo Qingchen Space. Entertainment Circle. 99 days of hidden marriage for rich and powerful. Mission completion rate. 100% experience. There are currently 5 items in the portable storage. April 5th exquisite ring. 9-section moon whip. Phoenix Dance Sword, all-purpose medicine box. Permanent ability. Space-time freeze, LV7 permanent ability. Teleportation, LV4 permanent ability. Telekinesis, LV1 exchange points. 5,500 base points. 40, hosts 46 mission panel is below. Appearance, physical strength, intelligence, stature. In the next second, the bronze mirrors page changed. Mission rank, S, experience gained. 500 female lead. Luo Qingchen male lead. Murong CI supporting female lead. Ning Qian supporting male lead. Murong Yu. Chapter 3051. This was a story of transmigration. The previous host was a person from the 21st century. Because of a murder, she transmigrated to Mu country 1,000 years ago. Moreover, her identity was an assassin. This story was quite complicated. Luo Qingchen also used a modular method to accept the memory. The previous host was a complete fangirl in the 21st century. She was greedy for the #1 male, God Liang Yu at that time. The previous host's fanaticism was different from normal fan club members. She belonged to the crazy type of fan. What was the crazy type? As the name implied, she would participate in all activities related to Liang Yu. She would attend all of Liang Yu's concerts, even if she was thousands of miles away. Moreover, she would buy VIP seats every time. She wasn't a child of a rich family. The money she spent on Liang Yu was saved by her frugality. It could be said that she was a complete fangirl. This type of person had one thing in common. As long as the other party gave her a faint smile, she would give up everything. This included her life. But in reality, the man who was glamorous on stage had a very messy life in private. Because of the proper handling of public relations, the so-called love triangle and love quadrangle weren't exposed. But how could the crazy fangirl believe these things? She still madly liked Liang Yu and chased after him with her heart. Until love triangle and love quadrangle couldn't satisfy Liang Yu. He liked the feeling of women blindly worshipping him. Therefore, he gradually started to make a move on fans. This kind of appearance association person would, of course, make a move on the most beautiful fans. The first one wasn't the previous host. When the news spread, the previous host and several managers of the fan club started to search for this beautiful fan. They all thought that the perfect idol in their hearts wouldn't do this kind of thing. So the only possibility was that this fan was making up nonsense. But in this world, paper couldn't wrap fire. No matter how much they protected their idol, no matter how much they believed, when more and more fans personally said that Liang Yu had booked a room with her, the previous host could only believe it. But she was a foolish person. After she knew about this, her first reaction wasn't why Liang Yu would do this kind of thing. Instead, it was why Liang Yu found a beautiful fan to book a room with, but didn't come to find her. Her looks weren't low. Moreover, she could do anything for him. The previous host had been waiting and intentionally or unintentionally kept showing herself at the concert. Finally, a month later, the previous host got the chance. Liang Yu's driver personally came to pick her up and took her to the highest class hotel in the city. Like this, she received Liang Yu's favor and got the chance to book a room with him. That was her first time doing this. First time, but Liang Yu didn't have any protective feelings for the fair sex. He was a completely different person from his stage persona. In private, he was a violent and unreasonable person who didn't care about the feelings of others at all. But even so, the previous host, the fans that he had slept with all left him one after another because of his roughness. Only the host, no matter how cruel and violent he was to her in bed, even making her kneel for a day and a night, the host didn't care. Chapter 3052. Ever since the previous host became Liang Yu's secret lover, she lived a painful but happy life every day. Liang Yu didn't treat her as a person, and she didn't treat herself as a person either. These days continued until 3 months later, the original owner inadvertently discovered one of Liang Yu's secrets. Because it was the weekend, the previous host went to Liang Yu's private villa to prepare. She couldn't miss out on any essential oils. She didn't know that when the previous host was preparing, she slipped and accidentally fell. When she went to the room to find a Band-Aid, she found a letter between Liang Yu and his lawyer. For years ago, Liang Yu was just a normal model, but he was still addicted to all kinds of women. But with his identity and status at the time, he couldn't have so many stars following him, and it was even more impossible for him to have fans who were obsessed with him to ravage. Therefore, when he couldn't control his desires, he raped a small star at the time, Guing. Guing was a very strong girl. She immediately planned to find a reporter to expose Liang Yu. Even if it would ruin her reputation, she wouldn't hesitate. But she didn't expect that one of the reporters she contacted to expose him would also like Liang Yu. She immediately told Liang Yu about this and told him that Guing had to do it this time and had to deal with it as soon as possible. Liang Yu was very flustered at the time, and there was no one to discuss it with. He was still young, and his modeling career had just started to take off. He definitely couldn't have this kind of black material. That night, he went to Gu Ying's place to find her. First, he tried to reason with her, but when he didn't get a response, he wanted to use money to shut Gu Ying's mouth. But he was still rejected. After he was sent away, he sat in his car. His eyes were bloodshot as he looked at Gu Ying, who wasn't far away. His head heated up, and he directly stepped on the accelerator. Gu Ying died on the spot. A pair of beautiful eyes fell out from the impact. Then Liang Yu immediately hired a lawyer to create an alibi. The letter that the previous host saw happened to be the letter he and the lawyer wrote. This letter was hidden under a secret drawer. The previous host didn't know why she would find this letter. But even so, she still didn't think Liang Yu was a murderer. Unfortunately, she could protect Liang Yu like this, but it didn't mean Liang Yu could believe her. When Liang Yu knew that the previous host had seen this letter, he didn't plan on letting her live. Finally, in the private villa, Liang Yu pretended to commit suicide and killed the original owner. Due to various prepared excuses, the death of the original owner was completely brushed aside by Liang Yu. A group of Liang Yu's fans also thought that the original owner chose to end her life because she couldn't obtain Liang Yu's love. Even if there were one or two voices defending the original owner, they were still drowned out by a large number of voices from the fans. Butterfly that only loves you. Mr. Liang, please take care of yourself. It's not your fault. Please don't blame yourself. Eternal thoughts. We all know your kindness. That's the thing that shines the brightest. Snow of the North, please. What does it have to do with you if this kind of person likes you? She even wants to use her death to ruin your reputation. You must not be affected by her. The voices on the internet were all over the place. Almost everyone was on Liang Yu's side. A day later, Liang Yu posted on Weibo as a victim. Chapter 3053. After the previous owner died, Liang Yu's path to stardom was smooth sailing once again. However, although the previous owner had died, her soul had transmigrated. Mu Shadow League's #1 assassin, Luo Qingchen. After transmigrating, the previous owner suffered from temporary amnesia. She would forget her past for a period of time. However, fate didn't pity her. Even after transmigrating, she still couldn't escape from Liang Yu's evil clutches. Perhaps it shouldn't be Liang Yu, but Mu Rongyu, Mu country's 8th prince. He was romantic, elegant, and gentle. When she first saw him, the previous owner's heart almost jumped out of her chest. That 8th prince looked exactly like Liang Yu from the 21st century. The tragic scenes of the 21st century flashed before her eyes. She loved Liang Yu so much that she would do anything for him. So why did he treat her like this, even cruelly killing her? The previous owner wanted to go forward and question Mu Rongyu, but she knew very well that Mu Rongyu didn't know her. As the #1 assassin, it wouldn't be difficult for her to kill him. However, the mission she received this time wasn't to kill Mu Rongyu, but to kill Mu country's crown prince, Mu Rongci. Mu Rongci wasn't only the crown prince of Mu country, he was also the #1 swordsman of Qingqiu Mountain. His martial arts were outstanding. Other than his martial arts skills, he was also the most handsome man in Mu country. When the previous owner received the mission to assassinate Mu Rongci, she immediately carried it out. Unfortunately, Mu Rongci's martial arts were far above hers. She didn't have a divine plan. After the assassination failed and she was injured, she happened to meet Mu Rongyu. He was the man who killed her 1,000 years later. When Mu Rongyu found out her identity, he took her to his private residence to take care of her. This feeling was very familiar to the previous owner. At first, She didn't know why Murong Yu wanted to save her. Later, she found out that he wanted her to assassinate Murong Si again. It was common for brothers to kill each other in the royal family. The previous owner refused at first. Whenever she thought of how Murong Yu had harmed her, she wouldn't be able to help him. Later, she found that the things he did to her began to blur in her mind. They were no longer clear. She looked at his face and fell deeper and deeper. In the end, she couldn't extricate herself. If you succeed, I'll marry you. You already have 8 concubines, and you still want to marry me? It doesn't matter how many concubines you have, as long as you're sincere. Murong Yu deeply kissed her lips and said, I keep feeling that you're especially familiar, as if we've been together for a long, long time. Are you sure it's the past and not the future? What do you mean? Nothing. I'll kill Murong Si. Will you marry me? Of course. The host took these words as a promise. So when she went to the Eastern Palace to kill Murong Si, she used almost all of her skills. But unexpectedly, she still failed. Murong Si had a pair of very cold and deep eyes. They were as beautiful as the stars. After he captured the original owner, he didn't want to kill her. He wanted to say something, but was interrupted by the sound of the door opening. Murong Yu rushed in with a sword in hand. Without the slightest hesitation, he stabbed Luo Qingshan's heart from behind. Blood splattered everywhere. Even if she didn't turn around, she knew who killed her. Why? 4th brother, 8th brother came late. Murong Yu frowned and said, This is an assassin from the Shadow League. It seems someone wants 4th brother's life. Chapter 3054. Just like that, the original owner's second life ended. Only the original owner knew how much sadness she felt. Luo Qingshan frowned and slowly opened her eyes. Her surroundings were barren. The system seemed to have only told her to return to a time before the original owner's death, but it didn't say when. Luo Qingshan frowned slightly and looked down at her clothes. She wore a light pink dress. Her long black hair was tied up with a hairpin, and her soft-soled shoes were embroidered with blue and white flowers. Ancient times, ancient times, ancient times. Heavens! It was actually ancient times. The original owner had been tortured so miserably. Was the system sure to not give her a chance for revenge? Compared to the ancient Murong Yu, she hated the modern Liang Yu even more. After all, the modern Liang Yu had hurt the original owner a lot more. Why didn't you send me to the modern era? Because this is the host's S-rank mission. There was no skill involved in that at all. Luo Qingshan looked around. According to the original owner's memories, she should have just transmigrated from the modern era to the ancient era. She had a kill order with 3 words written on it, Murong Si. It seemed she had already received the kill order, but hadn't used it yet. But at this moment, her mind seemed to be in a fog. She couldn't remember Murong Si's appearance. Luo Qingshan frowned. It was probably because the original owner had temporary memory loss that she couldn't remember Murong Si's appearance. But it didn't matter. Once she reached the Eastern Palace, she could ask a servant and find out. Luo Qingshan spent 3 days traveling from the mountains to the capital. The crown prince's residence was 5 li away from the Forbidden City. The current Emperor Mu favored the current crown prince, Murong Si, so he specially rebuilt the Eastern Palace and moved it to a place closest to the Forbidden City. His Majesty must have valued Murong Si. Otherwise, Murong Yu wouldn't have had such a hard time trying to climb up the throne. Luo Qingshan checked out the area during the day, then changed into night clothes and infiltrated the Eastern Palace. Since Murong Si was the male lead, she naturally couldn't kill him. But even if the original owner didn't know what kind of place the Shadow Alliance was, it was impossible for her not to know. After all, she still had memories of being the #1 assassin. It was probably because he knew what kind of inhumane life she had since she was young that he cherished everything she had now. Of course, Murong Si couldn't die, but he had already accepted the task. He had to put on an act anyway. At night, the Eastern Palace was not as cold as the streets. Red lanterns hung high, giving her a solemn and warm feeling. Luo Qingshan narrowed her eyes and looked for Murong Si in the crowd. But her memory of Murong Si was like a paste in her mind. She couldn't remember his appearance for a long time. Decades later, She frowned and gently shook her head. Forget it. Since he couldn't remember, he might as well guess. First, according to Murong Si's identity as the crown prince of the Eastern Palace, his clothes must be very luxurious. Maybe there was even some gold embroidery. Secondly, there must be a lot of people around the crown prince. There must be palace maids around him. Thirdly, he would definitely live in the most luxurious main palace. So if she still couldn't find him, he would wait for her at the entrance of the main palace. The October wind is a little cold. Luo Qingqian squints and jumps down from the red brick wall. Chapter 3055. Luo Qingqian was startled. The moment she took 2 steps back, she immediately grabbed the hidden weapon at her waist and quickly took a step back. She looked at the youth in front of her with a warning gaze. He was dressed very casually. His white clothes fluttered in the wind. His skin was as white as snow. His deep eyes were like stars, and his thin lips formed a beautiful arc. The youth in front of her was really good looking. He gave people the feeling that he was out of this world. He was holding a plate in his hand with a few snacks on it. Are you the chef of the Eastern Palace? The other side was stunned. Just as he was about to open his mouth to answer, Luo Qingqian directly covered his mouth and said, "You're not allowed to speak now. Otherwise, don't blame my dagger for having no eyes." The youth's dark eyes were filled with a faint light. He looked at Luo Qingqian's eyes, and the next second, he nodded in a daze. It was probably because the moonlight was too strong that Luo Qingqian didn't see the light in his eyes. Instead, she grabbed his arm and walked out of the darkness. Although the Crown Prince's Eastern Palace was built by the imperial court, the furnishings were personally arranged by Murong Si. As soon as Luo Qingqian entered the door, she felt that it contained the 5 elements and 8 trigrams array. But because it was too late, she didn't understand the arrangement of the array for a while. Now that there were 4 forks in the road, she seemed a little hesitant. Now the youth beside her seemed to feel the doubt in her eyes. His slender fingers gently lifted and pointed to the road ahead. Are you sure? Luo Qingqian looked at him and narrowed her eyes. But how do you know where I'm going? She felt that something was wrong, but she couldn't tell what was wrong. A safe place. The youth slightly opened his mouth. His voice was as cool as water and was particularly pleasant to hear. I advise you not to run away. Luo Qingqian didn't forget to threaten. If I'm in any danger, I'll definitely drag you down with me. Luo Qingqian wasn't really afraid of being in danger. She just wanted to threaten the youth in front of her so that he wouldn't play any tricks. But in fact, the young man's eyes were as calm as water, without the slightest hint of panic or fear. On the 3rd day, after many twists and turns, the young man brought her to a small kitchen. Luo Qingqian was stunned for a moment. She blinked her eyes and blinked again. This is your so-called safe place. Life is all about eating, drinking, and sleeping. There's food and drink in the kitchen, and you can make do with sleeping. Isn't that safe? The man put down the plate and leaned against the wall. With his hands behind his back, he looked at her indifferently and said, I still haven't asked for your name. Luo Qingqian couldn't help but feel that the young man in front of her was too calm. She lightly raised her eyebrows and said, Shouldn't you be asking for my reason for coming to the Crown Prince's Eastern Palace? It's so late at night, and you're dressed in night clothes, sneaking into the Crown Prince's Eastern Palace. I don't even need to think to know that you're here to assassinate the Crown Prince. The young man spoke very lightly. Under the moonlight, there was a touch of gentle light between his brows. You. Luo Qingqian was shocked by his words. How could a little chef say such things? Could it be he wasn't just a simple chef? Chapter 3056. What's going on? What happened? Wasn't she here for Murong Si? Why would she suddenly have a partner? Who would assassinate Murong Si? Luo Qingqian wanted to explain, but was interrupted by the youth. However, the Crown Prince is not in the Eastern Palace, but Qingxiu Mountain. The youth looked at her. If you want to kill him, you can go to Qingxiu Mountain. Luo Qingqian frowned. Since the Crown Prince is not in the Eastern Palace, who are you making these snacks for? Luo Qingqian looked confused. She felt that something was off. For the Crown Prince's cat. The youth shrugged. His Highness cat is much more honorable than us servants. Luo Qingqian looked at the youth from head to toe. I understand. If that's the case, I won't stay any longer. As soon as her voice fell, Luo Chun turned to leave, but the youth called out to her. Miss, can I ask you a question? Luo Chun did not turn around, but slowly opened her mouth. May I ask, why do you want to assassinate the crown prince? Is it because of your family's feud, or because of someone else's request? Luo Chun's shoulders trembled. After thinking for 3 seconds, she turned to the youth. Because of emotional trauma. This heartless man forgot his old love when he had a new one. The vows he once made were gone like smoke. Don't you think that's too much? The youth's eyes were clearly stunned. He did not expect Luo Chun to say something like that. He felt as if he had swallowed a fly. You don't believe me? Luo Chun looked at his face of disbelief. A faint light flashed in her eyes. The youth hurriedly shook his head. No, I believe you. That kind of scum should be cut into 1,000 pieces. But his death is not worth pitying. Don't worry. Luo Chun patted her chest and promised. I'll go to Qingqiu Mountain and take his head so that you won't be oppressed by him. Luo Chun was about to turn around again when the youth called out to her. Miss, hey, I say. Luo Chun finally couldn't hold back and complained. Can we finish our words in one go? If you separate your sentences, I won't know what you're trying to say. In my opinion, since Miss and I have the same goal, why don't we travel together and take care of each other? Travel together? Although her mission was to kill Murong Ci, she was actually looking for the male lead. In this case, it was not a good idea to bring someone who wanted to kill Murong Ci with her. Miss, why are you hesitating? The youth continued. It would take at least 7 days to get to Green Hill from the capital. This humble one and the cook could at least ensure that you have good food. Luo Chun was silent for a while. She had to admit that what this person said made sense. Do you know martial arts? If the other party did not know any martial arts, it was fine to bring him along. Moreover, he and Murong Ci didn't have any blood feud. As long as he could understand and reason with her, he should be able to alleviate her hatred. I'm just a cook. What martial arts do I know? The youth pursed his thin lips. If I knew martial arts, I would have killed him long ago and freed myself from the abyss of suffering. That might not be the case. Luo Chun nodded slightly and showed a proud expression. You might not be able to defeat him. According to her memory, Murong Ci was the most powerful swordsman in this world. Chapter 3057. Who admires him? Luo Chun's eyes trembled. I'm just worried that you don't know any martial arts and might run into danger. The young man's eyebrows twitched. I can see that you're quite skilled. Even if there's danger, you'll protect me, won't you? Protect you my ass. Luo Chun's lips twitched into a bitter smile. If you really want to come with me, it's not impossible. But you have to at least lead the way. Don't worry. The young man's lips curled into a faint smile. I can walk the road from the capital to Qingqiu Mountain with my eyes closed. All right, I promise to bring you along, but I can't guarantee your safety. No problem. All right. Luo Chun seemed to have thought of something. She blinked and asked, May I know your name? Xianli, I'm Luo Chun. After exchanging their lives, the two could be considered friends. Since they had the same goal, they talked a lot more along the way. Xianli was really good at cooking, and the dishes he made were all very delicious. Although they stayed in the same inn as usual, they ate all the dishes Xianli made himself. The first 3 days were fine, but on the 4th day, the inn they stayed in gave off a very strange feeling. As soon as they stepped through the door, they felt a chilly wind blowing. Several pairs of eyes in the hall all fell on them. Luo Chun frowned and pulled Xianli to her side. Follow me. Don't get lost. Xianli seemed to be very obedient as he nodded slightly, but there was a slight chill on his fingertips. Are you looking for a meal or a room? A room. Luo Chun continued. One night. All right, the innkeeper said. 2 rooms. Wait a minute. Luo Chun looked around. Everyone's eyes were still on them. Her eyes changed, and she grabbed Xianli's arm. We're just taking advantage of the good lighting to come out and relax. Just give us a room. The shopkeeper was obviously stunned for a moment, and a look of disbelief flashed through his eyes. Xianli standing on the side wanted to break free, but Luo Chun angrily grabbed him, and he couldn't move at all. Yes, 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 the innkeeper said immediately. It's interesting for a young couple to roam the world. Ha! Yes, yes. Ha! Luo Qingchun and Xan Li gave two different laughs at the same time. The shopkeeper looked at the waiter on the side and said, Come, bring these two upstairs. Guests, this way, please. When the door closed, Luo Qingchun slowly let out a sigh of relief. Xan Li instantly flung her hand away and jumped to her side. His face was gloomy and very unsightly. What are you doing? Luo Qingchun crossed her arms and looked at him with thankless eyes. Isn't it because I want to protect you? It's fine if you don't appreciate it, but you don't need to treat me so coldly. What kind of strange chef was he? His temper was so strange. I'm not used to it. He seemed to be trying hard to control his emotions. His cheeks were red and beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. His long eyelashes trembled. I'm going out. Luo Qingchun looked at Xan Li's back as he left. She frowned. Why did this person's personality suddenly become so strange? Did he not like others touching him? About an hour later, Xan Li returned to the room. Chapter 3058. Luo Qingchun was stunned for a moment. She looked at Xan Li from head to toe. He had changed his clothes. Although his complexion eased a little, there were still some beads of sweat on his forehead. What does that mean? The doctor said that this is a rare symptom, known as female allergies. Female, what disease? Allergy, disease. Luo Qingchun's expression was enough to express how surprised she was. What kind of strange disease was this? It's probably a change in body temperature when you get close to a woman. But this time it's a little strange. What's strange? Luo Qingchun blinked and said, I think your symptoms are very obvious. Because in the past when I get close to a woman, my whole body will be cold. Xan Li explained, but today, I feel an unprecedented heat and uneasiness. So strange? Luo Qingchun touched her ears and said, You look like you have a fever. My body temperature should be over 40. Luo Qingchun resentfully poured a cup of hot water for him and said, Then drink some water and rest in bed. I'll watch over here, no need. Xan Li's eyes suddenly became a little gentle. He looked at her eyes and said, The people staying in the inn tonight are not good people. You go to sleep first. Luo Qingchun showed a speechless expression and said, If I go to sleep first, won't I be sending myself to death? Please, a person who doesn't know martial arts is responsible for her safety. Don't you think it's ridiculous? Xan Li seemed to see the confusion in Luo Qingchun's eyes. A faint smile appeared on his lips and said, Do you think I can't protect you? Do you think you can? Before Xan Li could speak, the waiter knocked on their door and said, Guest, the food you ordered is here. Luo Qingchun cleared her throat and said, Bring it in. Looking at the food on the plate, Luo Qingchun couldn't help but ask with some doubts, I didn't order any wine. Miss, this is a gift from our store. The waiter said with a smile, Everyone who lives in the upper rooms has one. Luo Qingchun nodded and said, I know, you can leave first. As soon as the wine was put down, Xan Li couldn't wait to pour himself a cup and said, Heroine Qingchun, here's a toast to you. I hope you can kill your enemy with your own hands and mercilessly stab the dagger into the heart of the cold-hearted person. Luo Qingchun waved her hand. Aren't you afraid that there's something wrong with the wine? The next second, Xan Li revealed a very faint smile and said, Although I can't protect you, I can still test for poison. The moment his voice fell, he downed the wine in his cup without hesitation. Luo Qingchun was stunned for a moment. She stared into his eyes and felt an inexplicable palpitation in her heart. At that moment, she didn't seem to react. The moment they looked at each other, she didn't know whether it was him who first touched her heartstrings or his heart that was touched. Luo Qingchun didn't know. She only knew that Xan Li, who didn't know martial arts, was especially handsome at this moment. Don't you want a drink? He asked with a faint light in his eyes. Luo Qingchun slowly walked forward and said after filling her cup, Cheers. The spiciness of the burning knife lingered on the tip of her tongue for a long time, But what followed was not the excitement brought by the alcohol, but the weight of her eyelids and the blankness of her brain. She forced herself to look in Xin Li's direction. He had fallen heavily on the ground and seemed to have lost all consciousness. Chapter 3059. The sound of swords flashing and the smell of blood splattering everywhere. Although her consciousness was very hazy, she could hear the sounds that kept coming out of her ears, and her sense of smell was real. But she could not open her eyes. Only when the sound around her gradually quieted down and disappeared did she fall into a deep sleep. When she woke up again, she was in a carriage. She pulled open the curtain, and the person standing in front of her was none other than Xin Li, who had fainted earlier than her. Luo Qingshun squinted slightly, and a complicated light flashed in her eyes. "Are you awake?" Xin Li stopped the carriage and looked at her. "You're good. You didn't have to endure the shock after sleeping." My heart almost stopped. Luo Qingshun reached out, bypassed Xin Li's body, and took the water bottle from the horse's back. She took a sip and said, "What happened last night? Were we poisoned?" "Yes. Knockout drug." Xin Li blinked as if he was seriously recalling. The first group of people wanted to kill the second group of people, and the second group of people wanted to kill the third group of people. The point is that this shop is a black shop. He just wants to see these Jianghu people hurt each other and then take advantage of the situation. Ahem. Luo Qingshun cleared her throat, put down the water bottle, and said, "You know quite a lot. I watched the whole time, and then fought my way out to save you, okay?" Xin Li squinted and said, "You have to repay me for saving your life." "How do you want to repay me?" Xin Li was slightly stunned, as he did not expect Luo Qingshun to suddenly ask him a question. After a while, he said, "I haven't thought about it yet. I'll tell you when I do." Luo Qingshun looked down slightly, smiled faintly, and did not say anything else. Along the way, they were in a hurry, hoping to reach Qingqiu as soon as possible. But when they reached Qingqiu Mountain, they found that it had been massacred. From the foot of the mountain to the top, corpses and blood were everywhere. It was a ghastly sight. Luo Qingshun took a deep breath and said with a slightly trembling voice, "How did this happen? What kind of grudge did he have to kill the whole family?" Xin Li didn't say a word from beginning to end. Even his expression didn't change. Luo Qingshun gently frowned, pulled his sleeve, and said, "Are you okay?" Xin Li was slightly startled and hurriedly said, "I'm fine. I'm just a little scared. This is probably a vendetta. Looking at the wound, it should be someone from the Shadow Alliance." "What?" Luo Qingshun's eyebrows moved slightly. She hurriedly squatted down to check the wound of the deceased. The memories in his mind kept churning. Xin Li was right. This was indeed a wound caused by the Shadow League's Bloodblade dart. Moreover, many people were killed in one move. The blood is still flowing. The murderer shouldn't be far away. Xin Li looked at Luo Qingshun and said, "It's too dangerous here. Maybe the Crown Prince has already been killed. You don't have to be obsessed with revenge." "How do you know that I'm only looking for him for revenge and not to rekindle our relationship? Perhaps you don't even know what he looks like. How are you going to continue your previous fate?" A cold wind blew at the top of Green Hill. Luo Qingshun wore a snow-white silk dress. Her hair fluttered in the wind. She took a deep breath. Just as she was about to say something, she was interrupted by a cold touch. A cold sword was placed against her neck. The person was dressed in red. His peach blossom eyes were very enchanting, and his lips were as red as blood. Even if Luo Qingshun didn't turn around, she knew who was standing behind her with a sword against her neck. It was someone from the Shadow Alliance who was on par with her in terms of lightness and assassination. Chapter 3060. If it was a direct confrontation, Jun Yao was slightly inferior to her. But when it came to the use of hidden weapons, she was indeed inferior to him. The long sword was as cold as ice. The monarch's eyes seemed to have seen through everything, and the corners of his mouth curled into a faint smile. "Jun Yao, what do you mean by this?" Luo Qingshun narrowed her eyes, her tone extremely cold. "It seems that Qingshun has forgotten about the mission." Monarch Fei's fingertips twitched as he spoke in a guessing tone. Or have you forgotten what the target looks like? Luo Qingchen frowned, her heart trembling slightly. She had indeed forgotten what Murong Ci looked like. The main reason she brought Xianli with her was to be able to recognize Murong Ci. However, he did not expect Qingqiu Mountain to be wiped out. Could it be that Murong Ci was also? That's impossible. If her deduction was correct, he should be. Although Luo Qingchen kept denying in her heart, she was still somewhat flustered. After all, what she was experiencing now was an S-rank mission. Anything could happen. Taking a step back, Murong Ci's martial arts were so strong that unless there was a special reason, there were very few people who could hurt him. Whether I remember him or not has nothing to do with you. Luo Qingchen narrowed her cold eyes. What are you doing here? I'm here to kill the #1 assassin of the Green Hill faction. In the very next second, the demon general's gaze landed on Xianli, who was nearby, and he said those 3 shocking words. Murong Ci. Sure enough, Luo Qingchen's eyes trembled. She closed her eyes, and her long eyelashes fluttered. In fact, her guess was pretty close. At first, she really didn't think that Xianli was Murong Ci, but later, all kinds of signs showed that she was definitely an ultimate character who pretended to be a pig to eat a tiger. Qingchen, you're as expected is making me panic. A faint smile appeared on Murong Ci's lips, but her eyes were still as cold as frost as she looked at Junyao. If you want my life, then go ahead. What is the meaning of holding a fellow disciple hostage? Ding, affection has increased by 50. Mission completion rate is now 50%. Logically speaking, she was confused by the system's notification. Either there had never been a notification before, or when there was a notification, it was so stimulating. Her heart really couldn't take it. Because I know I'm no match for you. The smile in Jun Yao's eyes deepened. He looked at Qingchen with a playful expression and said, what happened at the 7 moons and has spread like wildfire in the pugilistic world. You don't need me to explain how you protected Qingchen, do you? The next second, Murong Ci's eyes became serious. Her eyes were as cold as frost as she looked at June. Since you know, please don't call her name so intimately. You're not qualified. He had to admit that he cared a lot about the person in front of him. From the Eastern Palace all the way to Mount Qingqiu, he hoped that he could keep walking. He had never thought that he would have someone he liked. When he accidentally touched a woman, she was no longer cold and disgusted. Instead, she became boiling hot blood and his endless desire. Luo Qingchen looked into Murong Ci's eyes. She could feel that in this instant, even his eyes had changed. Ha 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 ha. In that instant, Jun Yao broke out in wild laughter. His lips curled into a smile as he said, Look, I won the bet because you really fell in love with our Shadow Alliance's #1 assassin. I'll only say it once. He looked up with cold eyes and said, Let her go. Chapter 3061. What does it have to do with you? Then I'll tell you the answer. Jun Yao's voice suddenly became loud. His long sword moved slightly and cut the skin on her neck. Fresh blood instantly flowed out. The Shadow Alliance's assassin is looking for a person. There can only be one reason. Jun Yao's right hand lightly lifted Luo Qingchen's killing order, and he said, Kill him. Excellent. Luo Qingchen closed her eyes and pursed her lips. Murong Ci. Of course I know. Before Luo Qingchen could finish, Murong Ci interrupted her. A trace of gentleness flashed through his cold eyes. He looked at Luo Qingchen and said, Because the person who entrusted you is me. What? What did you say? Luo Qingchen and Jun Yao both showed expressions of disbelief. Her heart slightly knit. She tried to recall the memories of when the previous host received the killing order. At that time, the Shadow Alliance's leader had said that the person entrusted her with the task, but she had never thought about it. The person who entrusted her with the killing order was actually the same person. Why? Luo Qingchen's eyes trembled as she said, Why did you entrust me to kill you? Murong Ci looked at her. His deep and gentle eyes narrowed as he said, We'll talk about this answer in secret in the future. The moment his voice fell, he looked back at Jun Yao and said, Since you have a second client, why don't we fight like a man? No. Jun Yao shook his head and said, How could I dare to display my slight skill in front of the world's #1 swordsman? Murong Si heard this, and the frost in his eyes thickened. There were rumors in Jianghu that the Shadow Alliance's #2 assassin was sinister and cunning. It seemed that this reputation was not in vain. Then what do you want? Murong Si, I'll give you 2 choices. Jun Yao looked at him, and a strange smile appeared on his face as he said, either you die, or she dies. Luo Qingchen had never thought that she would encounter a movie plot in such a short time after coming to this world. For a moment, she couldn't recover. She knew Jun Yao's martial arts very well. He was already considered an expert in the pugilistic world. But when he faced Murong Si, he was actually so fearful. This proved that Murong Si's martial arts were far above his. They were now at the edge of the cliff. If they were not careful, they could fall down. It was precisely because Jun Yao was afraid that they would resist that he brought her to such a dangerous cliff. It seems that Your Highness the Crown Prince doesn't like Qingchen that much. Jun Yao's brows moved slightly as he pushed half of her body off the cliff. Then I'll take it as you choosing her to die. At this moment, Luo Qingchen felt the cold wind blow into her bones. In fact, Monarch Demon was gambling on her position in Murong Si's heart. Because if he really killed her, Murong Si would not let him go. He was also going to die. Wait, but in the next second, Murong Si said those 2 anxious words, proving that Monarch Monster had won the bet. Don't hurt her. Murong Si took a deep breath. There was a faint glow in his deep eyes as he said, I choose to die. Don't. When Murong Si was about to send a palm at his head, Luo Qingchen quickly stopped him and shouted, how can you let a villain succeed? This treasure will die with you. As soon as she finished speaking, she took a step back and pulled Monarch Yao down into the bottomless abyss. Ding! Affection has increased by 50. Mission completion rate is now 100%. Chapter 3062. Qingchen, don't. Murong Si rushed forward with all his might, but he only managed to grab the ribbon of her dress. They didn't think that she would do such a thing. It was too fast, so fast that he didn't even have a chance to react. There was a pitiful cry. Monarch never would have thought that Luo Qingchen would decisively take him down with her. After all, they were both members of the Shadow League. Although he didn't fully understand this #1 assassin, he still knew a thing or two. Since she chose to be an assassin, it meant that she had nothing to worry about in this life. She wouldn't sacrifice herself to protect someone. Originally, after hearing about what happened at the 7 Moons Inn, he guessed that Murong Si had special feelings for her. But he wasn't completely sure. But now that he was falling into the abyss, he understood that perhaps it wasn't unrequited love, but absolute mutual love. Due to the weight, Monarch fell much faster than Luo Qingchen. She quickly took out the Phoenix Dance Sword from her portable space and used it to reduce the gravity. In less than a few seconds, she fell to the bottom of the cliff. Due to the height of the fall, she blacked out and fainted. But Luo Qingchen knew very well that she would be fine from such a height. But no matter how good Monarch's martial arts were, he would die. She didn't know how long she had been unconscious, but she heard a rustling sound, as if they were discussing something. After a while, the sound got closer and closer. It should be right next to her. But she could only hear the sound and couldn't move. She wanted to wake up, but she couldn't. What should we do? Princess Saishue suddenly died. How do we explain it to the Mu King? Who crushed Princess Saishue to death? Could it be this woman? It shouldn't be. The position is a bit far. Moreover, if she fell from a high place and crushed the princess, she shouldn't have fainted. So it must be someone else. She looks a bit similar to the princess. We have no choice but to bring her back first. What? This? What else can we do? If the princess dies, all of our heads won't be saved. She is the woman the king wants to give to the Mu Crown Prince. Luo Qingchen frowned slightly, and her fingertips seemed to feel something. She roughly understood the meaning of their conversation. To put it simply, their princess had died for some unknown reason, and they wanted her to be their substitute. Brother Yong, she seems to be waking up soon. Then why haven't you carried her onto the carriage yet? Wang Yong immediately ordered. Luo Qingshun was carried to the carriage in a daze. Her head still hurt a little, but she gradually regained consciousness. The moment she opened her eyes, she saw two women dressed in foreign clothing sitting in front of her. He wore a beaded hat on his head and was dressed in red and green clothes. He looked a bit like a foreigner. Luo Qingshun moved her body and found that her hands and feet were tied. "Miss, don't move. The high priest will come in and explain the situation to you." One of the younger women said, "My name is Man. In the future, I will serve you with goose sang." Chapter 3063. The next second, the curtain was pulled open. A bald man in a white robe looked at her and said, "It seems that you have heard our conversation." Luo Qingshun narrowed her eyes. There was a cold light in her eyes. "I don't like to beat around the bush. You can get straight to the point. You're straightforward. I'm Dust. 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 I'm a priest from Sai Shui Kingdom. I'm going to Mu Kingdom with the princess." Dust said, "However, there was an accident, and the princess unfortunately died. You and the princess have some similarities. The people of Mu Kingdom have never seen the princess. Why do you think I will cooperate with you?" Luo Qingshun shrugged. She looked down at her clothes and said, "The princess can't just change her clothes." "Of course, but you have no choice," Dust explained patiently. "We're now in the same boat. If you say that you're not the princess in front of the king or the crown prince, you will die." "Ridiculous." Luo Qingshun narrowed her eyes. "Who do you think I am? Do you think you could trap me? Of course I know you're a martial artist. That's why I asked Man to give you our country's medicine. You shouldn't be able to use any internal energy now." Luo Qingshun didn't respond, but her clear as water eyes were strangely cold. He was right. The moment she woke up, she felt that she could not use any internal energy. She could not use any strength in her hands or feet. She had no choice but to compromise. However, she had to let the other party know that she was not someone to be trifled with. "So what?" Luo Qingshun smiled coldly. "If I don't cooperate, all of you will be buried with me." She looked very calm, without the slightest panic. Perhaps it was because she was too calm that a trace of solemn worry flashed across the high priest's face. "We implore you to help us." After the high priest said this, Man and Goose Sang knelt at the same time. "We implore you to help us. Is this your attitude when you ask me for help?" Luo Qingshun looked at them with her chin in her hand. "You want to seal my internal energy with medicine?" "Miss, as I said earlier, I don't like to beat around the bush." Luo Qingshun snorted and interrupted him without hesitation. She raised her right hand. "I'll give you two choices. First, give me the antidote. We will go to Mu Kingdom, and I will, and you will, and I will. Second, we'll all die together. With so many of you dying with me, it's not a loss." Silence. And silence. There was silence in the carriage. After a while, High Priest Dust took out the antidote from his sleeve and gave it to Luo Qingshun. "I hope that this miss will keep her word." High Priestess Manor wanted to say something, but Dust shook his head and said, "We were the ones who were unrighteous in the first place. It's our duty not to help you." Luo Qingshun took the antidote and swallowed it. "Don't worry. I won't go back on my word unless I die. I'm afraid you don't know. This time we were going to give the princess to the crown prince of Mu Kingdom." Dust said truthfully, "He is not a kind person." "What did you say?" Luo Qingshun was shocked. "The crown prince?" Chapter 3064. At the same time, in the crown prince's eastern palace, in a coffin full of peach blossoms lay the person with the highest authority in the eastern palace, the most important woman. Her face was unrecognizable. All the bones in her body were broken, and even her moon-white clothes were covered in blood. It was the 10th day since she died, and he still hadn't buried her. At the bottom of the cliff, she was already like this when he found her. Apart from her clothes, there was no other distinguishable part of her body. Whether it was her face, her feet, or her body, every part was a bloody mess. It was unbearable to look at. He didn't want to believe that the person in front of him was her, but the cruelty of reality forced him to believe it. If it wasn't her, who else would have fallen off the cliff? If it wasn't her, why was she wearing her clothes? If it wasn't her, Why could he still make out the outline of her face? They seemed to have only met a few times. They didn't seem to be able to see her clearly before she suddenly disappeared from his life. Your Highness, I've found it. Ning Yuan cupped his hands. My condolences, Your Highness. Morong Ci was expressionless. He slowly got up and took a deep look at the coffin. Let's go to the study. Yes. He didn't want to disturb her. This was a pure land that belonged to her. He didn't want any noise to disturb her. On the table, Morong Ci closed his eyes, then slowly opened them again. His ink-black eyes were bloodshot, and he hadn't slept for 10 days. He was extremely tired, but he couldn't sleep. Speak, Your Highness. This subordinate has investigated the Shadow League. Although they can't reveal the identity of the client, this subordinate still found out who wanted to kill everyone in Qingqiu Mountain through other channels. Ning Yuan paused. It's Lord Ba. As expected, Morong Ci's cold eyes narrowed. His target is me. He also knows that many of Qingqiu Mountain's people are Your Highnesses, Ning Yuan explained. The king's health has been deteriorating in recent years. He's always coveted your position as crown prince. This time, he's cutting off all means of retreat. Cutting off all means of retreat. Morong Ci's cold eyes narrowed. I've been too lazy to argue with him from start to finish, but this time, not only did he kill so many from Green Hill, he also looks like he really doesn't want to live anymore. Your Highness, perhaps we need to consider this matter at length. Ning Yuan frowned worriedly. Don't panic. He didn't respond, but his bottomless eyes were filled with layers of killing intent, making it hard for others to see through him. Your Highness, the king and queen are going to choose a crown princess for you. Ning Yuan knew that he shouldn't mention this at this moment, but he had to. And now, the 8th Lord had set up a huge trap from the Shadow League to Green Hill. He must have planned this for a long time. If the matter of the crown princess had not been settled, it would make Morong Ci's position as crown prince even more threatened. I already have a crown princess. When she said this, Morong Ci's cold eyes revealed a rare gentleness. Your Highness, please reconsider. You go out first. Morong Ci sighed softly. I will take care of this matter. Yes, Your Highness. After Ning Yuan left the study, Morong Ci slowly turned around and unrolled the originally rolled-up painting on the mural. The painting was very new, and the smell of brush and ink assailed her nose. Chapter 3065. I won't let you die like this. Those who hurt you, even if they die, I will drag them down to hell with me. He closed his bloodshot eyes and slowly stepped forward, gently kissing the lips of the woman in the painting. His lips trembled deeply. At the same time, in the 8th prince's estate, Morong sat on his high seat, eating an orange as he watched the dancers perform below the stage. He narrowed his eyes and fixed his gaze on one of the dancers, Go Ying. Whether it was dancing or playing the pipa, she was the best among all the dancers. You? Come here. Why aren't you serving the 8th prince? Yes. Gu Ying's peach blossom eyes were very moving, but there wasn't the slightest hint of joy in her cold eyes. This prince is in a good mood today. You'll stay at this prince's estate tonight and serve this prince. Morong raised his right hand and gently lifted her chin. With a bewitching smile, he said, What? You don't seem very happy. Gu Ying's face paled and she hastily knelt down. This humble girl's status is lowly. I only know how to dance and play the pipa. I'm afraid I won't serve the 8th prince well. A resounding slap resounded through the hall. Morong instantly grabbed her neck and said, There's never been anything this prince can't get. Even if your heart is filled with unwillingness, you still have to put on a smile on your face. In that instant, the entire hall's atmosphere froze. No one dared to breathe too loudly for fear of drawing fire to themselves. I shut up. Qing Song, Morong guard, said, Men, take this humble girl away to prepare. If she doesn't serve the prince well, all of you will be buried with him. Yes. Everyone is dismissed. Once everyone was dismissed, Qing Song looked at Morong and said, I heard the crown prince already has some news. What do you mean? He knows it's me? Morong expression was somewhat nervous. The Shadow Alliance shouldn't have leaked the client's information, so it was impossible for Murong Ci to know. Qingqiu Mountain has a certain status in the Jianghu. With such a huge tragedy, the Shadow Alliance will definitely be investigated, Qing Song explained. Pine Tree explained, moreover, I heard that the #1 assassin of the Shadow League, Luo Qingchun, is also involved in this incident. Didn't Jun Yao say that Luo Qingchun also received an assassination order to assassinate Murong Ci? Murong Yu knitted his brows. Logically speaking, we should be allies. I don't know the details. I only know that the Crown Prince has always refused to choose a Crown Princess. However, during morning court today, he agreed. He agreed? Murong Yu slammed the wine cup in his hand onto the table and said, "It looks like we'll have to speed up our plan." Master, are you talking about the Ning family? Ning Qian, is the only daughter of Prime Minister Ning Zhong. If she becomes Murong Ci's Crown Princess, it will be very disadvantageous for me. Murong Yu narrowed his cold eyes. Tomorrow, we'll go to the Prime Minister's residence to take a look at Ning Qian, who has the appearance of a beauty. Yes. Qing Song cupped his hands and said, "This subordinate will go and prepare." Murong Yu indifferently replied, then asked, "Is that woman finished?" Qing Song replied, "She's already been wrapped and placed in the West Wing." Chapter 3066. Whether it was in ancient times or modern times, Gu Ying's fate hadn't changed. She was still being abused like a slave by Murong Yu. Pressed down on the bed, she screamed as much as she could, but it was to no avail. Scream as much as you want. The louder you scream, the more powerful this prince will be. Murong Yu's bloodshot eyes burned with madness as he recklessly and violently possessed her. Gu Ying had screamed for an entire night. Her lips had long since dried up, and there were faint traces of blood at the corner of her mouth. Her entire body was covered in mud, and her eyes were empty and lifeless. She looked like a broken doll that had been overused. Take her to be cleaned. We'll continue tonight. Murong Yu had changed into a dark purple robe. He seemed to be in high spirits, and there was a hint of excitement in his eyes. "Your Highness, a man is outside the residence, looking for his wife." Qing Song frowned slightly. He should be the husband of the woman called Inge from last night. "Oh," Murong Yu coldly replied, then shrugged his shoulders in disdain. "You know what to do. Once you're done, put that thing in a box and bring it back." "Yes, Your Highness." For the next 7 days, Gu Ying spent every night in Murong Yu's room in agony. She originally held onto a trace of hope, but now she had completely given up. Right now, she didn't ask for anything. All she wanted was to see her husband one last time. "What a beauty! Tell me, have I satisfied you these past few days?" Murong Yu's voice was extremely enchanting. His right hand gently hooked her chin. After she dodged, he turned around and clamped her neck. A suffocating feeling instantly assaulted her, but she closed her eyes, not intending to struggle. Days like this were even more painful than death. She didn't want to endure it anymore. "It seems you want to die?" Murong Yu abruptly released his right hand, followed by a series of coughs from Gu Ying. "Cough, cough, cough. Cough, cough, cough. Why don't you just kill me?" Gu Ying shouted at the top of her lungs, her eyes filled with hatred as she looked at him. "Don't you think you're ridiculous? You've only obtained my body, but you'll never obtain my heart." Slap! A heavy slap rang out, and Gu Ying was slapped to the ground. Murong Yu coldly raised his eyes, and a mocking smile appeared on his face. "Why would this prince want your heart? This prince only wants to feel good." "Oh, of course, I'm a person. You need to do one thing for me." The Crown Prince's consort selection was around the corner. In the past few days, he had seen so many singers and dancers, but this woman called Gu Ying was the most beautiful one. She needed him. Even if she wasn't the Crown Princess, he needed her to be chosen and enter the Eastern Palace. "In your dreams," Gu Ying roared and looked at him. "Why would I work for a dog?" "Pa!" Another resounding slap rang out. Murong Yu licked his teeth and said, "What a pity. At night, you can only be tortured to death by the dog you speak of." Gu Ying's bloodless lips trembled as she said, I curse you to die a horrible death. I advise you to take a look at your husband before you curse me." Murong Yu patted the head, and Qing Song walked in with a square box. The air was instantly filled with a foul stench, but Pine Tree's expression did not change at all. Perhaps he had done this kind of thing so many times that he was numb to it. Chapter 3067. However, at this very moment, Ying's heart was truly trembling. She didn't know why, but she could immediately imagine what was inside the square box. It was as if a pair of eyes were staring at her through the box. They were filled with gentleness, affection, and pain. When Murong saw her panicked expression, a look of satisfaction appeared on his face as he asked, "Do you know what's inside?" Ying shook her head frantically. "I won't listen. I won't listen. I won't listen." In the next second, Murong grabbed her hair and said, "You have to listen. You have to listen very clearly." As soon as he finished speaking, his bloodshot eyes shone with a scorching light. It was as if he was admiring a piece of art as he opened the box. Ah! A piercing scream rang out as Ying's vision turned black and she fainted. But soon, a bucket of cold water was splashed on her face, instantly waking her up. The moment she woke up, she saw a human head rolling on the ground. That was her husband's head. "I'll kill you. I'll definitely kill you." Tears flowed uncontrollably from Ying's eyes. She felt as if she was going crazy, but her mind was incomparably clear. Her husband was dead. His head had been cut off just like that. Seeing him peacefully close his eyes, she felt even more pain in her heart. Because of her. It was all because of her. If she hadn't become a singer due to her family's poverty, he wouldn't have died so tragically. She never thought that her voice, her beauty, and her lute skills would cause her to lose everything she had. "Kill me?" Murong laughed foolishly. "The one you want to kill isn't me, but the current crown prince." Ying didn't listen to his words at all. Instead, she muttered crazily, "I'll kill you. Ying, have you forgotten that you still have a 3-year-old daughter?" In that instant, Ying's body trembled. It was as if her daughter's smiling face had appeared in front of her. Biting her lips, she raised her head and glared at Murong with eyes filled with hatred. "Don't hurt my daughter." That was the only connection she had with him. That was the only purity she could feel in her filthy body. "I want you to enter the Eastern Palace and become the crown princess." "Ha ha." Ying laughed coldly and said, "Someone of my status, what qualifications do I have to be the crown prince's consort? I will return your identity to you." Murong lifted her chin and said, "Yin Chongfeng is already dead. If you want your daughter to live, you'd better be obedient. Otherwise, I'll send your daughter to hell to find her father." Murong's words were like needles stabbing into her heart. She couldn't wait to cut this beast of a person standing in front of her into 1,000 pieces. Then they would drink his blood and eat his flesh. But not only could she not do that, she also had to work for him. It was such a torturous thing, such a cruel thing. But she didn't have a choice. At the same time, the Forbidden City. Luo Qingshun followed the foreign convoy for 10 days and finally returned to the capital. The capital in November seemed to be more lively than before. Hawkers were hawking their wares along the streets. People were coming and going, and there was an endless stream of horses and carriages. Chapter 3068. Thus was a little worried and frowned. "Our country is just a small country in the eyes of Mu Kingdom. We have to offer pigs and mutton as tribute every year. Although Mu Kingdom will give us gifts in return. But compared with what we have to offer, it is not worth mentioning at all." "You mean?" Luo Qingshun probably guessed the meaning of the high priest's words, but she still wanted to ask clearly. "In this forbidden city and other small countries, there are at least 50 women who want to marry the crown prince." The high priest sighed softly. "Our king naturally hopes that the princess can become the crown princess, but he also knows that this honor is indeed difficult." Luo Qingshun nodded and continued to ask, "Then why is the street so lively when the crown prince wants to marry a crown princess?" "Because King Mu is happy this month, so he pardoned the world. All the stalls don't need to rent the land. It can be regarded as another way of bestowing a gift to the people." The high priest looked at her and said, "Miss, we also said to the princess that we don't expect her to be chosen as the crown princess, but at least she should be chosen as the crown prince's concubine. I know this is very difficult for you. You may be imprisoned in this forbidden city for a lifetime. But I still have to ask you, I know. Luo Qingqian raised her eyebrows slightly, and a faint light flashed in her eyes. But High Priest, you also have to promise me that if I have anything to ask you in the future, I hope you can be as duty-bound as I am today. After all, we have no relationship. She could help, but she never did a losing deal. In fact, she had been desperately hiding the joy in her heart. She inherited Murong Si's skill of pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. In a state of compromise, she put herself on the weak side. In this way, not only could the other party deeply feel the grievances she had suffered, but also let them feel grateful. Because they would never know that she agreed to this matter, absolutely not, because she sympathized with the death of the princess of Saishui country, but because the person the princess was originally going to marry was Murong Si. Of course, the high priest's eyes were filled with determination as he looked at her and said, "Miss, our country will never forget the great kindness you have shown us today. From now on, we will support you and ensure your safety." Luo Qingqian took a sip of tea and narrowed her eyes. "Very good. Crown Prince's Eastern Palace." Because Murong Si finally agreed to marry the Crown Princess, King Mu was overjoyed. Last time, he gave a lot of things and even rewarded many beauties. Murong Si only asked Ning Yuan to arrange for them to be maids. There were no other extra gifts. "Your Highness, the women that King Mu bestowed have all been arranged." Ning Yuan cupped his hands and bowed. But there's still a few who are a bit restless. After all, they were all beautiful girls who were good at singing and dancing. Moreover, they were personally bestowed by the current king of Mu. If she was only a mere palace maid in the Eastern Palace, it was inevitable that they would feel indignant. Those who don't know their place, use whatever methods you can to let them know the rules of the Crown Prince's Eastern Palace. Murong Si narrowed his eyes, his voice cold. "Yes," Ning Yuan replied. "Master, the daughter of Prime Minister Ning, Ning Qian, has come again. You have not seen her for several days. Do you want to see her today?" "No." Little did they know that before Murong Si's voice fell, the Eastern Palace had a new guest. Chapter 3069. The Eastern Palace is really lively today. Murong Si coldly snorted. "See them all. Have them go to the front hall." "Yes, Your Highness." Half an hour later, Murong Si sat on the throne, including Ning Yuan and himself. There were a total of 5 people in the hall. "Fourth brother, congratulations. You're finally getting married." Murong Yu was the first to speak. "I heard that even before the day of the consort selection, the nobles and concubines of the imperial court have already sent their daughters or relatives to the Eastern Palace. Fourth brother has always been aloof. I'm afraid you've been feeling a bit irritated these days." Fortunately, Murong Si raised his brows slightly. His eyes were as cold as frost, and his entire body emitted a chill. He picked up the teacup on the table with his right hand and took a sip. "May I know why the 8th prince has come to my Eastern Palace today?" Murong Si had always liked to pretend to be a pig in order to eat the tiger in the Forbidden City. Moreover, because he had an arrogant and unruly personality, no one could restrain him. Also, because he was standing in his own territory and seeking defeat alone. Whether it was the throne or the title of the #1 swordsman, as long as he wanted it, there was nothing he couldn't get. Murong, you could naturally feel the coldness in Murong Si's tone. In the past, no matter how they fought, he would still call Murong Si 8th brother in front of outsiders. But now, he didn't even need to call him that. "Fourth brother, aren't I here to send you some gifts because I saw how festive your estate is?" Murong Yu glanced at Ging, who promptly stood up and said, "Greetings, Your Highness." There were faint scars at the corner of her mouth. Although she had covered them with a thick layer of powder, they couldn't completely hide the traces on her face and the exhaustion in her eyes. "Humph, you know your place, yet you still have the nerve to come to the Eastern Palace to flatter me." Ning Qian rolled her eyes. "If the 8th prince likes it, he can keep it for himself. What's the meaning of sending it to Brother Crown Prince's Eastern Palace?" Ning Qian had been Prime Minister Ning's precious daughter since she was young. She would melt in one's mouth and fall in one's hands. Growing up in such an environment, not only was she arrogant and willful, but she was also often unreasonable. She had liked Morong Si since she was a child. When she was a child, she liked to follow behind him and call him Brother Crown Prince. When she grew up, she got used to calling him that. Morong Si had always been indifferent to her. Other than being polite, there didn't seem to be anything else. But now his heart had long been sealed in ice. He didn't even have the most basic courtesy anymore. Miss Ning must be joking. Morong Yu glanced at Ning Qian, and continued. Fourth brother, this Ging is a distant relative of mine. She's been studying music since she was young, and her pipa skills are like the sounds of nature. Fourth brother, why don't you keep it? You can listen to it when you're bored. Ning Qian bit her lip and stood up unhappily. She stomped her foot and said, Hey you, that's enough. Morong Si's brows furrowed slightly. He really didn't want to listen to their flattery here. He faintly looked at Guing and said, You can stay here. In a while, Ning Yuan will take you to the place where you live. Thank you, Your Highness. The corner of Morong Yu's mouth curved into an extremely faint smile. His eyes were filled with confidence. Currently, there was no one in the Eastern Palace who belonged to him. He had to send someone in to listen to the information, even if it wasn't to kill Morong Si. Guying's daughter was in his hands, so he wasn't worried about her doing anything. Chapter 3070. After Morong Yu left, Ning Qian was reluctant to leave. She looked at Morong Si coquettishly and said, Brother Crown Prince, don't be fooled by that song. I'm the one who's going to be your wife. Ning Qian had enough confidence in herself. Whether it was status or beauty, none of the women who wanted to marry Morong Si could compare to her. Except for Guing, who was slightly more beautiful than her, she wasn't afraid of the others at all. She had never taken him seriously. Wife. Morong Si's eyes showed a faint gentleness at this moment, but the next second they returned to being as cold as ice. He looked at Ning Qian and said, I already have one. Brother Crown Prince. Ning Qian bit her lip, looking a little wronged. Big sparkling tears fell instantly. She sniffed and said, Are you talking about the woman in the ice coffin in the Peach Blossom Pavilion? She didn't know who that person was, but she had heard that the Crown Prince had brought a woman back. Her face was disfigured, and all the bones in her body were broken. She was a dead person. At first, she wasn't convinced. After all, no matter who came first, she should be the woman that Morong Si valued the most. She should be the Crown Prince's wife. As for that woman of unknown origin and disfigured face, how could she be mentioned in the same breath as her? Fortunately, her father persuaded her. No matter how important that woman was to the Crown Prince, she was already a dead person. She didn't need to affect her relationship with Morong Si because of a dead person. But today, Morong Si directly said that he already had a wife in front of her. This feeling was like a mute who had eaten Chinese gold thread. She felt bitter, but couldn't say anything. Yes. Morong Si took another sip of tea and said, I think I've made some things clear to you a long time ago. He didn't love Ning Qian. No matter how many times she confessed, he rejected her. But she still didn't seem to understand. Did she think that they could be together forever just because they were from different families? How ridiculous! How ridiculous! No. Ning Qian wiped away the tears on her face and said, Brother Crown Prince wants to choose a wife this time. She's already dead. You can't choose her. It was probably at this moment that Ning Qian could see from Morong Si's eyes how important the dead woman was to him. Fortunately, she was dead. If she wasn't dead, the position of Crown Princess might not belong to her. You're not qualified to ask about my affairs. Morong Si's eyes became cold again. She looked at Ning Yuan and said, Send Miss Ning out. I'm not going. Ning Qian shook her head and said, I want to stay in my brother's Eastern Palace. I'm not going anywhere. Currently, the side courtyard of the Eastern Palace was filled with the women that had been gifted to Morong Si by the imperial harem. Every one of them was dressed like a flirtatious slut and was bent on becoming a phoenix. But little did they know that a sparrow was a sparrow and could never become a phoenix. Even if they really wanted to transform, they could only transform into black chickens. Dancer, black chicken. Such pronouns were quite suitable. Morong Si didn't say anything else. He just waved his hand and left the front hall, heading in the direction of the Peach Blossom Pavilion. Every time he went to the Peach Blossom Pavilion, he would have an inexplicable sense of anticipation in his heart. This kind of anticipation came from the depths of his heart. It was indescribable and unclear. Chapter 3071. Ning Qian wasn't familiar with the Eastern Palace. She wanted to follow Murong Ci, but she didn't expect him to shake her off so quickly. Just as she was about to put her hands on her hips in anger, Murong Yu appeared in front of her. "Miss Ning, why are you so angry?" Murong Yu looked at her with a smile. "Fourth brother is the crown prince, so there are bound to be many women serving him in the Eastern Palace. Some things can't be forced. What does it have to do with you?" Ning Qian pursed her lips and said sarcastically, "Some people don't even have that kind of honor. So this is the reason why Miss Ning has refused my many visits?" Murong Yu still had a faint smile on his face as he looked at her. "Actually, I don't have any ill intentions. It's fine if I refuse. This is your home. If a girl like you is wronged, I'll feel an indescribable pain in my heart." Ning Qian blinked her large eyes at Murong Yu. "What's there for you to feel bad about? It's not like you're the one being wronged." When she said those words, she appeared very delicate, as if she were a high and mighty daughter receiving the concern of an admirer. "Miss Ning, don't you understand?" Murong Yu smiled gently. "Miss Ning is the #1 beauty in the capital. Naturally, there are many people who admire you." Ning Qian seemed to be extremely satisfied. She blinked and said, "What's the use of them admiring me? Their status doesn't match mine. I'm the future crown prince's wife, the future empress's wife. How can they covet me?" "Ha ha." Murong Yu chuckled. "How can Miss Ning be so sure that the current crown prince will be the future emperor? It's better for Miss Ning to make your own decisions." Murong Yu lowered his voice. "After all, I heard that fourth brother already has a candidate for the crown prince's wife. She's a dead person." Ning Qian bit her lip. "How can a dead person be the crown prince's wife? If fourth brother insists on making her the crown prince's wife, what can you do?" Murong Yu sneered. "When the time comes, fourth brother will most likely anger royal father. His position as the crown prince will be swaying in the wind, and he won't be able to protect it at any time." As soon as he finished speaking, Murong Yu walked off in another direction, not even looking back. Ning Qian was left standing in the same spot, her mind constantly replaying Murong Yu's words. Every word was like needles stabbing into her heart. After a while, Ning Yuanfang found her and hurriedly said, "Miss Ning made me look for you. It's late now, so I'll send Miss Ning back home." "No." Ning Qian narrowed her eyes and said, "I want to stay in the Eastern Palace tonight. Go back and report to the Crown Prince that if he is not willing to arrange a place for me, I will live with the girls sent to the Eastern Palace." Ning Qian looked ahead coldly and said, "I was just about to teach them a lesson. Peach Blossom Pavilion. She wants to live with them." "Yes." Ning Yuan wiped the sweat from his forehead and said, "Now that Prime Minister Ning's position in the court is second to none, it is not good to offend Miss Ning." "Do you think I'm afraid of offending her?" Murong Sai narrowed his cold eyes and said, "If she wants to stay, then let her stay. By the way, how is the evidence I asked you to collect going?" "Replying to your highness, I have already investigated the Shadow Alliance. Now that the Demon Lord's whereabouts are unknown, there's no way to prove that this matter is related to the 8th Marquis." Chapter 30-72. Yes. Ning Yuan lowered his eyes. "Master, you're so smart. The incident at Qingqiu Mountain has caused a sensation in the Jianghu. Many people want to kill the culprit. As long as there's evidence, the 8th Prince won't be able to deal with just his enemies." Murong Ci's eyes didn't relax at all. After all, Murong Yu must have wiped away all traces of himself before doing this. If they really wanted to find evidence, it would take some time. "I'll leave it to you." Murong Ci waved his hand. "You may leave first." "Yes." Ning Yuan was about to leave when he suddenly remembered something. He turned back and said, "Master, this subordinate has something to report." "Speak." "The princess from Saishui country will arrive at the Eastern Palace tomorrow morning." Ning Yuan's eyebrows twitched slightly. Although Saishui country is a small country, King Mu attaches great importance to this matter. They've already entered the palace to meet the envoy. Murong Ci sneered. Everyone is trying to squeeze into the Eastern Palace. Even a princess from a small foreign country is here. Interesting, very interesting. Master, don't you plan to meet them? Ning Yuan asked. I heard that the high priest of Shui country has the ability to communicate with spirits. Murong Ci's expression didn't change. He nodded slightly and said softly, since they've already met the envoy, you could go pick them up tomorrow. As for their accommodation, you can arrange it as you wish. Yes. The next morning, the sun was shining brightly. Luo Qingchun put on a new set of Shui country clothes and covered her face with a veil. It was said that this was a custom of Shui country. The bride had to wear a veil at all times to prevent anyone from seeing her face. This way, they could leave their most beautiful and pure faces for their husbands to admire on their wedding night. Man, and Gu Sang helped her dress up. She looked at the bronze mirror with a hopeless expression and said, I think your country is really strange. If you cover your face with a veil, why do you have to put on such exquisite makeup? Miss, you don't know. This is a rule left behind by our ancestors, Man replied. Man replied as she said, once we step out of this door, we can no longer call you Mississippi Miss, is our princess. Ah, Luo Qingchun suddenly understood. Yes. Princess. I just want to ask why your princess's name is so long. I really, Abracissimo, Sajobi, Pashilla Flower, and Gongmushua. She had already memorized this name for a few days. This thing did not seem like an ancient poem. Their names were rare and hard to pronounce. Our names are all very long. Abraxamuking is the princess surname, followed by her given name. Gu Sang explained, Princess, you have to memorize it as soon as possible. Otherwise, you will be easily seen through by the knowledgeable ministers in the court. Are you sure? Luo Qingchun shrugged, sneered, and said, I guess even if I read it randomly, no one would know if it's right or wrong. Manner hurriedly touched Luo Qingchun's lips with her fingertips and said, You can't speak carelessly. If you say one wrong word, all of our heads will fall to the ground. Chapter 3073. Of course, the three words Gong Mushua were forced back by Man, Air, and Gu Sang. They said that if it was in private, it was not a problem to use the last three words. But if she saw Mu Wang or the Crown Prince, she must use her surname and first name. It was really a long surname and first name. She spent a full 4 hours dressing and dressing up before sitting in a sedan chair and heading to the Eastern Palace. Along the way, Dusty talked to her, telling her not to be nervous and to look normal. In fact, she was not nervous at all. She and Murong Ci hadn't seen each other for a long time since they parted at Qingqiu Mountain. Murong Ci couldn't have forgotten her, so he chose to be the Crown Prince's wife. It shouldn't be. She clearly had a 100% favorability, and she was very confident about it. Her mind was a little confused, and she couldn't figure it out. She gently lifted the curtain and said, Priest, why do you think the Crown Prince wants to choose a Crown Prince's wife? Probably because her question was too naive, Dusty replied after a few seconds. This time, many women gathered in the East Palace for the Crown Prince's wife election banquet in 3 days. But I heard that the Crown Prince already has someone he admires. Really? Luo Qingchun pursed her lips, revealing a smile that was difficult to hide. Her eyebrows trembled slightly. Who is it? Already dead. What did he mean by already dead? Please, she was still alive, okay? But thinking about it, it was normal for Murong Ci to think that she was dead after falling from such a high place. But, according to his character, shouldn't he want to see her alive and dead? In short, this is a taboo, and it is also the news given to us by the ministers of Shui country. The high priest repeatedly exhorted, I have told the king the news of the princess's death. He is very sad, thinking that it was his excessive strictness that caused her to lose her life. So this time, when you marry into the East Palace, the king doesn't ask you to be the Crown Prince's wife, but only to save the face of Mushua country. I know. Luo Qingchun frowned slightly, her mind still spinning on the previous topic. But from the high priest's tone, It was clear that he did not want her to ask any more questions. She could not be bothered to ask any further. Everything would be decided when they reached the Eastern Palace. Murong didn't come to pick them up. It was his personal bodyguard Ning Yuan who came to pick them up. Ning Yuan was very polite to them and arranged accommodation for them. She saw many people along the way. They were all dressed to the nines, and the way they looked at her was different. Luo Qingshun didn't expect that it was easy to enter the Eastern Palace, but difficult to see Murong Ci. All the place that Ning Yuan arranged for them was not bad. The room was very big. Except for the maidservant's residence opposite, everything else was quite good. Every once in a while, she could hear the sound of quarreling coming from the house opposite. She really wasn't used to hearing a woman's high-pitched voice. Luo Qingshun touched her ears and frowned. "I'm going out for a walk." She felt like she was in a wet market. Her ears were full of chatter. If she didn't go out for a walk, she would really go crazy. "Hey, princess, princess." Man Air and Gu Sang wanted to stop her, but it seemed that nothing happened. She walked faster than them. Little did she know that as soon as she walked out of the door, a person was pushed in front of her. Chapter 3074. Here comes another one. Ning Qian looked at Luo Qingshun with disdain. "Get out of my way." Although Ning Qian didn't like Luo Qingshun, she wasn't from Mu Kingdom. No matter how small Sash Kingdom was, it was still a kingdom. Even though she didn't like sending a princess away, the harem wasn't allowed to interfere with politics. She didn't have the guts to do so. So, to Luo Qingshun, she was just a little angry and didn't intend to be as rough as she was to the person on the ground. Luo Qingshun narrowed her cold eyes, and her lips curled into a smile of disdain. "What? Are all the women in the Crown Prince's Eastern Palace shrews? How dare you, you foreign woman? Do you know who you're talking to?" Before Ning Qian could speak, the maid in orange beside her spoke first. Even if such a pampered young lady lived in the Eastern Palace, she still needed her own personal maid to take care of her. Of course, other than taking care of her, she could also bully others. Luo Qingshun helped the girl up while looking at Ning Qian. Although the Snow Country isn't a powerful country, they still have 50 to 60,000 soldiers. You're treating a princess who came to the Mu country for the sake of friendship. Do you want me to report you to the Mu king? You, Ning Qian, was infuriated by Luo Qingshun's smooth words. She pointed at her with a red face and said, "Where did this shrew come from? Don't you know the rules? Cheng take off her veil." "Don't do this." In the next second, Guiying stood in front of Luo Qingshun and said with red eyes, "Miss Ning, you just don't like me. Come at me. Don't make things difficult for this girl." Okay. You're on the same side now, aren't you?" Ning Qian yelled at the maid beside her. "Cheng slap her hard. How dare a peepa girl talk to me like that? She really doesn't want to live anymore." "Yes, Mississippi." Guiying's right hand gently pushed Luo Qingshun behind her. She was not a great person, but she knew how to be grateful. She understood that a drop of water should be repaid with a gushing spring. In the next second, just when she thought the pain was going to land on her face. However, she realized that the pain did not come, but she heard the crisp sound of the slap clearly. Luo Qingshun was quick. She grabbed Cheng Er's hand without hesitation and slapped her face with her other hand. In fact, compared to Cheng she wanted to slap Ning Qian Er's face more. It wasn't because she was afraid of Ning Qian Er's identity, but because Ning Qian didn't make a move, and it wasn't appropriate for her to fan back in that direction. Are you crazy?" Ning Qian widened her eyes. At this moment, she looked like a shrew in a wet market. She said fiercely, "I think you don't want to live anymore, do you? How dare you meddle in my business? You dare to hit my people? Fine, if you really want to die, I'll fulfill your wish." Then she turned to look at Cheng and said, "Go back to the mansion and tell father everything that happened here. What's no country? If you mess with me, I'll destroy your country." Chapter 3075. In the blink of an eye, Luo Qingshun's right hand grabbed her neck. Help! Cheng help me." Ning Qian obviously didn't expect Luo Qingshun to grab her neck so decisively. She wanted to kill her in front of everyone. With Luo Qingshan behind her, Cher naturally didn't have a chance to get close to Ning Qian. Before she could get close, she was kicked to the ground. More and more people gathered around. After all, everyone lived in the same courtyard. But even though Luo Qingshan had made such a move, no one was willing to help her. Hey, to be honest, you're really not that popular. The moment her voice fell, Luo Qingshan waved her right hand and threw Ning Qian to the ground. Cough, 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 cough. Cough, 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 cough. Her hair was messy, her eyes were red, and her neck was red. While coughing, she was still glaring at Luo Qingshan fiercely. The next second, she seemed to drag out a sentence from her throat. You dare. I won't let you go. Luo Qingshan gave a sound of understanding, as if she was thinking about something. After a while, Ning Qian saw that she didn't reply. She looked at her with a mocking expression and said, What? Are you finally scared? I'm telling you, it's too late. I'm afraid you don't know my father's position in the imperial court. Don't even think about living. Ning Qian had been the apple of Prime Minister Ning's eye since she was a child. When had she ever been humiliated like this? Even if the people she loved were cold to her, they had never done such a terrible thing to her. She absolutely wanted to kill this woman. I think there's something wrong with your eyes. Which eye of yours saw that I was scared? Luo Qingshan cleared her throat and said, Listen carefully. I'll only say it once. If you can't remember it, then you're really stupid. You tell me. I won't forget your name, even if I turn into ashes. Abrasi Muching, Sai Zhuoboa, Pusilla Flower, and Gongmu Shua. Luo Qingshan deliberately read it quickly. After she finished, she shrugged and looked at Ning Qian with contempt. Have you memorized it? You are clearly humiliating me. Ning Qian still wanted to say something, but she found that she could not breathe at all. She could only sit on the floor and cough desperately. More and more onlookers had gathered around them. Not only did they not seem to have any intention of stepping forward, they even couldn't help but start discussing. Wow, isn't this princess of Sai Shui country too cool? Why do I have a feeling of admiration for her? It's not you, okay? We all have them. Although we were given to His Highness by different people, it doesn't mean that we don't have our own dignity. Exactly. Wasn't this daughter of the Ning family relying on the fact that her father was the prime minister to be so rude and unreasonable? I don't see His Highness like her that much. That's right. Anyway, I didn't see anything today. I didn't see anything either. Did something happen here just now? She had to admit that it was rare for her to hear such a discussion among the onlookers, and she felt so refreshed. Ning Qian's character was really bad. Even with her noble status, no one spoke up for her at this moment. Chapter 3076. Probably because she couldn't gain the upper hand, Ning Qian got up dejectedly and rushed back to her residence to complain to her father with Chang'er's help. Luo Qingshan didn't stop her. After all, this was the Crown Prince's Eastern Palace. Even if she wanted to kill Ning Qian, she couldn't do it here. She knew a thing or two about the situation in the Mu Kingdom. Prime Minister Ning was indeed very powerful. Even the Mu King had to be courteous to him. She couldn't kill her in the Eastern Palace because this was Murongxi's Eastern Palace. After Ning Qian left, Guiying suddenly knelt down and kowtowed to her. Princess, it's my fault. I've implicated you. Luo Qingshan looked at Guiying's face and suddenly blinked. She kept blinking, feeling that this face was very familiar. She hurriedly helped her up and raised her eyebrows slightly. What's your name? My name is Guiying. It was probably because Luo Qingshan's expression was too shocked that Guiying was also scared. After all, even though Murong had concealed her identity, paper couldn't hide fire. Not many people knew her, but it wasn't like there weren't any. If she was exposed, wouldn't she be unable to assassinate Murongxi? Then her daughter, no. Impossible. In the next second, Guiying rejected this idea. The woman in front of her was dressed in foreign clothes and a white veil. She came from the distant country of Sessa. She could not possibly know her identity, much less why she had come to the Eastern Palace. Although it was only for a second, Luo Qingshun still felt the change in Guying's eyes. She had something on her mind, and her question had obviously frightened her. "It's nothing." Luo Qingshun shook her head and smiled. "It's just that your name reminds me of a friend from my hometown." Was there a connection between the modern Guiying and the modern Yangyu? Luo Qingshun didn't know. She only knew that her teaching Ning Qian a lesson was famous in the Eastern Palace. Although everyone secretly supported her actions, they didn't dare to openly help her on the surface. Luo Qingshun felt that something was strange. The incident in the Eastern Palace was not a small matter, but Murong Ci did not appear from beginning to end. Just how much did he not care about these crown prince consort candidates that were as beautiful as flowers and jade? Sisters, please don't provoke that Miss Ning. Song Tan, the daughter of the Minister of Works, was the only one who went to see them that night. She had a delicate face and spoke softly, which was fundamentally different from Ning Qian, who was the so-called daughter of a noble family. "Tan, you're too soft-hearted." Guiying looked at her and said, "Although I've only known you for a few days, you're different from me. You're also the daughter of an important official in the imperial court. You shouldn't be bullied by her like this." As Guiying spoke, her gaze landed on Song Tan's arm, which was covered in bruises of various sizes. "Did she hit you?" Luo Qingshun gently moved her clothes. There seemed to be many injuries underneath, but they were covered by her clothes. "She has a bad temper." Song Tan's eyes were slightly red, but she hurriedly shook her head and said, "My father is a disciple of Prime Minister Ning. I've known her since I was a child. She's a little special to me compared to others." "Special because she hits you harder and bullies you more?" Luo Qingshun snorted softly. In addition to pity, there was helplessness in her eyes. Chapter 3077. The next second, Song Tan immediately shook her head and said, "Sisters, please don't tell anyone about this. I want to stay in the Eastern Palace, even if it's as a maid. At least I won't have to be ordered around by her. But what if she is chosen as the crown princess?" Luo Qingshun narrowed her eyes, and a glint of darkness flashed through her eyes. "Wouldn't you be sending a lamb to the tiger's den?" Song Tan quickly sighed softly and said, "It's her lifelong dream to be able to marry a ladder. If she can become the crown princess, I'm afraid she won't make things difficult for me anymore." "Naive. You're so naive." Guiying sighed helplessly. "Some fates you can never escape. Don't worry." After a long time, Luo Qingshun thought for a long time about what to say. In the end, she just said lightly, "Ning Qian can't become the crown princess." Song Tan and Guiying looked at each other, both showing a puzzled expression. Although there were many people sending women to Murong Ci, whether it was the imperial court, the imperial harem, or even the pugilistic world. But whether it was in terms of identity or status, Ning Qian was a well-deserved candidate for the crown princess. But why was the princess of Sikshu country so sure that Ning Qian couldn't become the crown princess before the election had even begun? Luo Qingshun didn't say much. She just gave Song Tan and Guiying some medicine and watched them rest well. No matter what happened, she would shoulder it. She didn't sleep all night. It was almost the day of the crown princess election, but she just couldn't fall asleep no matter how hard she tossed and turned. Why did she have such a strange feeling, as if it was a very unreal feeling? As for why it was unreal, she couldn't tell. At the same time, in the crown prince's bedroom, Ning Yuan recounted to him what had happened in the remote area today. His monologue had vividly described what had happened at the scene. "The princess of Sikshu country?" Murong Ci narrowed his eyes and murmured with a puzzled expression, "She really said that and did it? Isn't that so?" Ning Yuan continued, "No matter how rude and unreasonable Miss Ning is, she can always infuriate her to death with just a few words, as if she could deflect 1,000 caddies with 4 tails. I heard that in the end, he was so angry that he rolled his eyes and went straight back to complain of Prime Minister Ning." "Interesting." Murong Ci took a sip of tea and raised his eyes slightly. "Tomorrow, there will be a banquet for the crown prince's consort selection. I want to see if this so-called princess you speak of is as powerful as you say. In the Mu Kingdom, A banquet would be held before every major consort selection or coronation. This would allow the crown prince or the king to have a better understanding of these women and make a better choice. Yes, I'm almost done investigating the evidence of the 8th prince's bloodbath at Green Hill, Ning Yuan replied. As long as your highness orders it, I'll make it public. There's no rush. Murong Si's cold eyes narrowed as a faint smile appeared on his lips. He actually doesn't care about losing his reputation in Jianghu. All he cares about is the throne of Mu country. Your highness means... Chapter 3078. The banquet first. She didn't sleep well the whole night. Early in the morning, there were noises coming from the opposite room. Luo Qingshan wanted to get up and take a look, but Manner stopped her. Today is the banquet first. Princess, you should take care of yourself first. Man shook her head and said, now it's only in the East Palace. If the crown prince becomes the king, these people won't be grateful to you in the future. Man is right, Gu Sang said as she combed her hair. Let's not meddle in other people's business for now. Let's go and see. 2 hours later, Luo Qingshan and all the women in the East Palace went to the banquet first. This included Guiying, Song Tan, and Ning Qian. Ning Qian looked at her viciously and didn't forget to snort when she brushed past her. You won't be arrogant for long. When I become the crown princess, there will be no place for you in the East Palace. Oh, Luo Qingshan glanced at her and responded, same to you. Funny. Ning Qian rolled her eyes and said, you think you can become the crown princess? Even if you think with your toes, you know it's impossible, okay? Ning Qian didn't do nothing when she returned to the mansion yesterday. She wrote a 4-page accusation letter and handed it to Prime Minister Ning, asking him to directly report it to Murong Si. At this moment, in Ning Qian's heart, Murong Si absolutely hated this princess from Saishua country. It was harder than reaching the sky for her to enter the East Palace and serve the crown prince. Let's wait and see. Luo Qingshan didn't say anything more to her. She walked straight forward and sat down in her designated seat. Guiying's seat was next to her, and Song Tan sat next to Ning Qian. Luo Qingshan frowned slightly and looked in Song Tan's direction with some worry. She always gave the impression of a submissive woman. She didn't know if she would be bullied by Ning Qian sitting next to her. Guiying, what do you want to perform later? Luo Qingshan's gaze was still in front of her. She asked casually with her right hand supporting her cheek. Play the pipa? Guiying. She called her name many times before Guiying came back to her senses. Her eyes were a little dazed as she asked, what's wrong? Luo Qingshan looked at her and asked tentatively, do you have something on your mind? No. Guiying shook her head frantically and bit her lip. I'm just a little nervous. She had promised Murong Yu that she would make her move during today's banquet. If she didn't succeed, she might never see her daughter again. That was the only connection between her and her husband in this world. Don't be nervous. Luo Qingshan's eyes were dark, but she said in a very serious tone, the crown prince is a very good person. Don't feel pressured. In fact, anyone who could read Murong Si's mind could understand that he, who had never chosen to marry a crown princess, was doing this not only to consolidate his position as the crown prince, but also to win over people's hearts. At this moment, Murong Yu must have been very anxious. After all, he made the first move, yet Murong Si had the upper hand. His Highness the Crown Prince has arrived. Just as Luo Qingshan was deep in thought, a loud announcement rang out. That familiar youth once again appeared in front of her. He had taken off his white robes and was wearing a dark court robe. His eyes were pitch black, and aside from coldness, no other emotions could be seen. Wasn't this the banquet for his crown princess? Why was he so unhappy? Chapter 3079. Greetings, Your Highness the Crown Prince. Gentle voices rang out. When these words were spoken in unison, they were quite pleasant to the ears. Luo Qingshan trembled slightly, her gaze naturally landing on him. In fact, it wasn't just her. Everyone at the banquet should be looking at him. Let's begin. Murong Si had just finished speaking when another announcement came from the door. The 8th prince has arrived. My lord. Ning Yuan lowered his eyes. He's here. Let him in. Murong Si had made so many preparations just so he could leave the prince's estate for a long time. He had sent someone to Murong Yu's estate to leave some things there. Congratulations, fourth brother. Congratulations. Servants, give him a seat. See, there was a small gasp that couldn't be any smaller. Perhaps even Gu Ying didn't notice it, but Luo Qing Chun did. She noticed that Gu Ying's fingers were trembling and her face was gradually turning pale. Under these circumstances, it was no longer as simple as being afraid of making a mistake in her performance. After exchanging a few pleasantries with Murong Yu, Ning Qian impatiently rushed out to show off. Melodious music slowly sounded. She wore a fiery red dress and started to dance. In fact, her dance was considered passable in modern times. However, there were too many good dancers in ancient times. She danced in front of so many people who were better than her. It really felt like she was displaying her slight skill in front of an expert. After the song ended, there was barely any applause, making the atmosphere particularly awkward. This was perhaps the first time Luo Qingchen had experienced being isolated as a supporting female lead. It could only be said that her popularity was really bad. They're all jealous of me. Ning Qian coldly snorted, then turned to look at Murong Si with a brilliant smile. Brother Crown Prince, did Qian dance well? Murong Si didn't say anything. Instead, his gaze landed on Murong Yu. In the past few days, Murong Yu had been worried that Murong Si might have a good relationship with the Prime Minister because of the Crown Prince's consort selection. However, Ning Qian turned him away without giving him any chance. Good. Miss Ning's dance is naturally good. Murong Yu replied with a faint smile. At the same time, he didn't forget to clap twice. Little did he know that Ning Qian did not bite at all. She turned around and murmured, I didn't ask you. She practiced this dance completely for Murong Si to see and please him. But he didn't even praise her, which made her lose face. Yes, it was just that he had no face in front of Luo Qingchen. Let us welcome the next person, the famous Pipa girl Song Ying. Hearing someone call her name, Gu Ying's whole body suddenly trembled, and beads of sweat appeared on her forehead. The next second, she took a deep breath. Just as she was about to get up, Luo Qingchen held her right hand. She whispered in her ear, I'll do it for you first. No, no. Gu Ying swallowed her saliva. I'll do it myself. Bang. In an instant, Luo Qingchen held her wrist down even harder. Gu Ying, you can't kill him. You, because I'm here. Although she was extremely unwilling to admit that Gu Ying had appeared to assassinate Murong Si, she still boldly made assumptions and carefully verified them. From Gu Ying's various expressions and words, she really did seem like an assassin who wanted to kill someone. Chapter 3080. At this moment, Luo Qingchen saw many emotions in Gu Ying's tearful eyes, and the most profound emotion was fear. She was afraid. Her fear must have exceeded her own life. Perhaps she was coerced by someone, so she had to assassinate Murong Si. Miss Gu Ying is a bit nervous. I happen to know how to play the pipa too. Luo Qingchen picked up the pipa beside Gu Ying and slowly stood up. She nodded slightly and looked at Murong Si, who was sitting on the high seat. Why don't I play a song for your highness to appreciate? Her voice was still cold with a touch of playfulness. Even with the white veil, one could imagine the smile on her face. At this moment, Murong Si's heart skipped a beat, as if it wouldn't beat anymore. His mind was completely blank, and his world was completely still. That cold voice seemed to have passed through time and space, like an ice needle that could break through all things, piercing into his heart layer by layer. Grand! Grand! Your Highness! Your Highness! Ning Yuan called him many times, but he didn't hear a single word. The people around began to whisper, and they all pointed at Luo Qingchen. Isn't she the princess of Saixue Kingdom? The one who fought with the daughter of the Ning family yesterday. Me? I heard that Ning Qian went to His Highness to complain about her. She wrote 4 pages of her misdeeds. That's ridiculous. No wonder His Highness didn't even want to respond. It seems that Ning Qian still has a place in His Highness's heart. Humph. You just found out. I remember all the people who didn't clap for me, just now." After hearing their words, Ning Qian said proudly, "Apologies are useless unless you kneel down and kowtow to me 3 times." Perhaps because Ning Qian's pretentious voice was a bit loud, Murong Ci came back to his senses. Your Highness." Luo Qingxun blinked and said, "Can I perform now?" Ning Yuan, "Yes, Your Highness. Give the princess a seat." Ning Yuan obviously didn't react, but he was sure that he didn't mishear. Generally speaking, no matter what kind of performance it was, the servants would be responsible for moving the chairs forward and sitting in the middle of the banquet to perform. There had never been such a thing as bestowing a seat. Bestowing a seat meant that the person would be seated at a high position, like Murong Yu beside the crown prince. Hiss! At this moment, everyone sucked in a cold breath. The situation had changed too quickly, and no one had recovered from their shock. Only Luo Qingxun knew that he had already recognized her from that short sentence. "Give me a seat." Murong Ci's deep eyes flashed with an excited light like the bright moon and stars. "I'm not good at playing the pipa." Luo Qingxun's fingertips lightly tested the notes before she said, "Your Highness, please don't blame me." He narrowed his eyes and looked at her dotingly. "I won't." The melodious sound of a pipa rang out. She wasn't good at playing the pipa, but she had experienced many playings, so she more or less knew a thing or two. There were many songs she wanted to sing, but at this moment, a song that wasn't that special but was deeply engraved in her heart flashed through her mind. Holding a brush and folding fan, I wrote 3 lines of regret. Carrying a sword, I stepped out of the mortal world in this life. With just a turn, I'm drunk on your lips. Today, I'll drink a cup of sorrow until I'm drunk. Tomorrow, no matter who comes to the city gates, I'll climb a mountain of swords and enter a sea of flames. What people say about righteous and evil, I won't let go of your hand. In this life, I love and hate, right and wrong. If we meet again in the next life, I'll still fight with you. Chapter 3081. She didn't know why, but even though she hadn't suffered much, her eyes were inexplicably red at this moment. The pipa stopped playing, and the song ended. Luo Qingxun nodded slightly. She wanted to say something, but her words were stuck in her throat, and she couldn't say a single word. Murong Ci slowly raised his trembling right hand and slowly approached her veil. He knew it was her. Even though she was wearing a veil, he knew it must be her. She didn't die. She didn't die. She didn't die. The veil gently fell, and they met again in the past. Her face was as white as snow, and her eyes were as clear as water. The corners of her mouth were slightly raised, and her long and slightly curled eyelashes were gently trembling. After a long separation, she hadn't changed at all. She was still so beautiful that she seemed to glow. "I'm back." Luo Qingxun gently moved her lips and murmured these 2 words. She was caught off guard and fell into an embrace. Murong Ci's hug was so heavy that she almost couldn't breathe. She knew that sometimes reunions were more shocking than parting. She closed her eyes and used his clothes to wipe away the tears that were about to fall. Not a single woman in the room didn't reveal a look of astonishment. Even Murong Yu, who was sitting on the other side, widened his eyes in disbelief. Why? Why did Murong Ci do this? He was a smart person. He must have his own reasons for doing something. What was the origin of this princess of Seychelles? Why was Murong Ci hugging her so recklessly? Was there something he didn't know about Seychelles? Ning Qian almost couldn't hold back her emotions and roared uncontrollably. Once a person reached a certain point, they couldn't completely control their emotions. Moreover, Ning Qian had been spoiled since she was young, when she had already decided on an ending, and this ending had a 360-degree reversal. Her weak willpower would completely collapse. Why? Impossible. Impossible. She crouched down like a madwoman and covered her eyes to prevent herself from looking. She covered her ears to prevent herself from listening. She liked Murong Ci. No matter what the premise was, she had already decided that she would become her crown princess. This was because the crown prince had never treated any woman differently. At least, she felt that since she had grown up with him, she would definitely be better than others. But now, Murong Ci, who was cold, ascetic, and had never been close to women, was actually holding a woman in his arms. Furthermore, he didn't let go for a very long time. It had been a long time, a long time. It was Luo Qingxian who came back to her senses and touched her burning ears. She pursed her lips and said, You go ahead. I'll go to the back for a stroll. Ningyun, your subordinate is here. Send Qing. Send the princess back to her room. Instruct the kitchen to prepare some pastries and tea and send them to her room. Ning Yuan coughed twice and asked cautiously, Which room do you want to go to? In fact, according to the scene just now, the room master was talking about must be his own room. But after following Murong Ci for so many years, he had never seen a woman other than a maid enter his room. This really shocked him to the point that he didn't know what to do. Murong Ci's eyes narrowed with a dangerous glint. He softly said, Mine. Chapter 3082. There wasn't a single sound in the banquet hall. Everyone's eyes were on Luo Qingxian. They watched as Ning Yuan sent her off in the direction of the main hall's dormitory. Their gazes were filled with surprise, jealousy, resentment, and doubt. Cough, cough. Murong Ci watched her figure disappear from sight before retracting his gaze. He looked at everyone again and said, Today's Crown Prince Consort selection ends here. He didn't wait for anyone's response and directly left the banquet hall. At that moment, even Murong Yu didn't know what this Crown Prince brother wanted to do. He didn't choose Prime Minister Ning's daughter, Ning Qian, and the others didn't either. Instead, he chose another princess of Sai Shui. Did this country have some unspeakable secret that could increase Murong Ci's power? After the banquet ended, each residence had a different reaction. The 8th prince's residence. Investigate carefully. Find out the background of that princess of Sai Shui and why Murong Ci chose her as his crown prince consort. Murong Yu's hands were on his hips, his eyes filled with hidden meaning. The Murong Emperor's illness was getting worse, and there was still a mountain in front of him. He had done so many things and killed so many people. He couldn't let it go to waste. Qing Song, this subordinate is here. This prince can't wait any longer. Murong Yu coldly raised his eyes, a sinister smile on his lips. Carry out all the plans in the next few days, including the last step. Gu Ying's assassination failed, but that didn't mean he didn't have a backup plan. Since he wanted to deal with someone as meticulous as Murong Ci, he naturally prepared many trump cards. He originally thought he would choose Ning Qian, so he might as well drag Prime Minister Ning down with him. But now, it seemed that he didn't choose Ning Qian, and the Prime Minister could be roped in. For him, this might even be an opportunity to push the whole thing to a climax. Prime Minister Ning's residence. Bang, 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 bang. A pile of things fell to the ground, accompanied by a woman's screams and cries. Miss, don't throw things. A servant picked up the glass shards while trying to stop Ning Qian. Piss off, all of you, piss off. Ning Qian roared, I'll throw whatever I want. It's none of your business. After a while, a dignified elder in court attire walked in. He stroked Ning Qian's head with a pained expression and said, Oh, my baby girl, don't scare me. Father. Ning Qian jumped into Prime Minister Ning's arms and cried, Father, I've been wronged. I'm so sad. I want to die. She liked Murong Ci so much that she had rejected many marriage proposals from noble families for him. But what was the result? Murong Ci actually chose the princess of Sai Shui country to be the crown princess without saying a word. Who was she? She was just an outsider. What qualifications did she have to become the crown prince's consort? Many people at the banquet were dissatisfied with her, but they didn't dare to say anything. Because everyone knew that she was the most likely candidate to become the crown princess, they did not dare to offend her. But when Murong Ci said so firmly that she had chosen the crown princess, everyone looked at her with ridicule. Prime Minister Ning was startled. It was probably because his precious daughter had said the word die that he panicked. He had a glorious life and only had one daughter. No matter what, he had to pamper her and not allow anyone to bully her. Chapter 3083. At the same time, in the Crown Prince's Eastern Palace. Luo Qingshun took advantage of Murongxi's return to put down her original shui country clothes and put on a moon-white pleated moon dress. Her long hair was tied up with a sandalwood Kongho hairpin, looking particularly elegant and pure. It wasn't that she didn't like shui country's clothes, but since they were reunited, she should be her true self. She wasn't shui country's princess Abraxamyuking, says Hobi, Pusila Flower, or Gong Mushiwe. She was Luo Qingshun. Standing in front of the mirror, she gently closed her eyes and felt everything around her. It was good to be able to come back. It was good to be able to come back to his side. Just as she was thinking this, a warm body hugged her from behind. This seemed to be the first time he hugged her. The affection came so fast that she couldn't clearly feel the change in his feelings for her. But the more some feelings were sealed in the bottom of his heart, the easier it was to fill his heart. That kind of longing was the most terrible in the dead of night. As long as he closed his eyes, his whole mind would be filled with her appearance. Every move, every frown, every smile. Sorry, I came back late. Luo Qingshun pursed her lips and said with a playful smile, "Did His Highness the Crown Prince look for me?" "No." Murongxi pulled back his arms and said again with force, "You've always been in my heart." PFFF, Luo Qingshun chuckled and said, "I didn't expect Murongxi to say such flirtatious words. Then, shouldn't we also settle the score from back then? If the Crown Princess asks, the Crown Prince will tell you everything he knows." He picked her up and gently put her on the soft couch. "Ask away. When I first met you in the Eastern Palace, did you already know that I was an assassin of Shadow League?" "Yes." "You were the one who poisoned our tea at the Seven Moons Inn, weren't you?" "You did it so that I wouldn't expose your identity." "Not completely." Murongxi gently played with her hair and said, "I know your kung fu is not low, but those so-called Jianghu people are sinister and cunning. You're safer in the room." "Umph." Luo Qingshun snorted. "You're looking down on me too much." The next second, she frowned slightly and asked a rather serious question. "Why did you, as a client, issue a kill order for Shadow Alliance to kill you right now? There had to be a reason for such a strange thing to happen." "That's a big secret." Murongxi looked at her eyes and smiled. "Perhaps to be more specific, I shouldn't say the assassin of the Shadow League, but you." "Me? Qingshun, actually, I met you much earlier than that, at a time when you don't know." Murongxi's eyebrows trembled. "Although I haven't seen your appearance, I know that person is you. But if you want to see the so-called #1 assassin of the Shadow League as soon as possible, issuing a kill order is the fastest way, isn't it?" In fact, Luo Qingshun didn't fully understand the meaning of this sentence at the moment. When she wanted to ask again, Ning Yuan knocked on the door and came in. "Greetings to the Crown Prince. Greetings to the Crown Princess." Ning Yuan cupped his hands and said, "The matter is almost done. Only the finishing touches are left. I've never seen you so well-mannered before." Murongxi's eyebrows moved slightly. "Get ready. We're going to the palace."